Welcome to the Common Sense Podcast. I'm delighted to be joined by the one and only Richard, or as he's better known, Ricky The Hitman Hatton.
Yeah, good to see you again, mate. Been a while.
It has been a while, yeah. You don't look any different though, mate. You've aged really, really well, I must say that.
Bearing in mind I fought Paquiao and Mayweather and Tszyu and all that, I think I'm not looking too bad, really, am I? Yeah,
fantastic,
yeah. But no, I'm looking after myself a little bit better these days now. Obviously, the party can't last forever. And, yeah, I spend most of my time now. I still have a beer and stuff like that, but, in my local and that. But it's more training my boxers, looking after myself a bit more. I'm a granddad now. Campbell, my son's gone professional, 2 lovely little girls, so looking a lot more healthy.
For a grandfather, mate, you look fantastic. I didn't know, congrats. I didn't know you were in the grandfather stage.
Yeah, granddad Hitman, yeah.
So you must be a gilf then, are you?
Yeah, I hope, yeah, I wish.
But as I say, I'll take you back hopefully to the early start, because I just want to explain to our viewers, how you get into boxing to go on and become, as I say, I think you'll be remembered as one of the most iconic British fighters of all time. Certainly my generation growing up, you captivated the country with, you just said there, hundreds of thousands of fans flocking out to the USA to watch you box. It must make you incredibly proud.
It's incredible, to be honest with you. I mean, my heroes, and they're still my heroes, for that matter, Frank Bruno, Nigel Benn, still my heroes. No matter what I've done, they'll always be my heroes. But when I think Frank held the record of British fans going over to Vegas. I think he took 10,000 over for the Mike Tyson fight. When you think, for the Mayweather fight, it was like 40,000 fans for the Mayweather fight. 25,000 for the Castillo fight, which you went to, mate. You went to that one. You went to Mayweather one as well, didn't you?
No, I trained with you before the Mayweather
That's
fight.
Right, yeah. And then for the Malignaggi fight, 15,000. For the Arango fight, 15,000, So all in all, I had 5 fights in Vegas. And I think around just over 100,000 fans went to Las Vegas. I mean, that's more than my heroes. They're still my heroes, Frank and Nigel. They always will be. But, I mean, if I've had a better following than me heroes, how can that not be the best thing? I went into retirement with you.
I remember going out for it. Was it Luis Castillo?
Yeah, it was Luis Castillo. Yeah.
I remember going out, and first time I'd been to Vegas, and the thing that shocked me about it was the takeover. The Hatton fans taking over, and it wasn't just your Man City fans. It wasn't just your Manx.
Yeah,
it was
the whole
Britain,
country, all of Britain,
Scottish,
yeah,
Irish, but all there to watch you fight. And again on that occasion, you'd done the business. I remember having a pint with you in the after show.
Yeah.
And I would just remember being struck by Vegas being, British and Irish.
Yeah, I mean, I've been over to Vegas. I've not been over for a few years actually, but even when I retired from boxing, I went over probably about 3 years on the trot, and to just walk through the casino, a little bit overweight, not boxed in Vegas for about 5 or 6 years. For me to just walk through the casino, say the MGM Grand, and then all the fellas behind the pits, going, "There's only one Ricky Hatton," and I thought what the hell, they spotted me there.
With the greatest respect to you, though, I mean this as a compliment. Like Wayne Rooney, like you wouldn't, if you seen you, whether you've 8 stone or 10 stone or whatever you was when you were in your prime, you're a recognisable face because you became that big as a boxer.
Yeah, and I mean it's I felt so proud because I was going to restaurants in Vegas or going to bars and nightclubs, and they were putting free tables and free seats and free this and for tickets for the free shows under my door. And I thought, how do they still remember me? It's not down the road in Manchester. You know what I mean? I love Manchester, but I don't get that treatment in Manchester. And I mean, the entertainment capital of the world. And they say, I'm putting in a request for two seats for Celine Dion, let's say. You know what I mean? Next minute, this slid under the door. That's on us, Ricky. It's mind blowing. It's a dream. It's from the kid from the council estate, Joe. It is end of the rainbow stuff. Even to this day, I think, did that happen? That
yeah. But again, I'll take you back there to Hyde, the very beginning, growing up in Hyde. How was that?
Yeah, well, I've always been from around this area. Obviously, my gym's in Hyde. I was born in Hattersley, council estate, and it was always been not too much to be to be proud of over the years. I mean, some of them, my local's still on Hattersley. You know, my mates are still my mates who I went to school with. But we come from, you know, Hattersley was more known for the Moors murderers, you know, back in the day, Mara Hindley, you know, and Ian Brady.
Yeah.
And then Hyde was more known for Dr. Howard Shipman, and Hattersley also had the two lovely police ladies that got shot.
Oh, the Dale Cregan thing.
That was from Hattersley as well, you know. So it's like most council estates, you know. And I think you'd agree, you know, they've not had too much to be proud of over the years, but, you know, still the nicest people you'll ever wish to meet. And that's why I still only live down the road from where I was born, you know, and still friends with the people, my local, still my local. And I think that's, it's always been a close-knit community, Hyde, Hattersley, you know, Staley Bridge, Ashton, around this local area. And I think people like me because I never moved from my roots, even after all these years. I think life has changed for me so much when I have me nice things like me gym you're in here, and, you know, my house and my holidays and stuff like that. So life has changed a lot for me, but I don't think I have too much, and I think that's why people like me in the first place.
Yeah, you've always been
not just because of the fighting, yeah.
Even, you know, as I say, I've seen you all along your journey at the very peak when you were going into that Mayweather fight. And the one thing I always say is he's never changed. You know, that's the greatest compliment. You know, you didn't ever believe you were the best thing since sliced bread, as some people do when they get, you know, all that smoke blown up their ass. You always maintained, you know, and again, you know, I always believe you've maintained that level of, I'm Ricky, you know, I'm a lad from Manchester.
I think people, you know, back in the day, I think I had an exciting style of fighting, didn't I? You know, obviously I was attacking, I was a body puncher, I was dead aggressive. You was always on the edge of your seats because my defence wasn't the best, you know. And it was always up and down in weight. You know, one of the lads, I'm in the pub, I'm on the beer, I'm here, there and everywhere, ballooning up and down in weight. And I think even though I had a good style of boxing, I was exciting, I was getting caught, I had a crap defence and stuff like that. But I was entertaining to watch. But I think people followed me because of, not just because of me as the fighter, is because, you know, one minute, you know, you see me in the pub round
relate to you.
Yeah, round Main Road or round City, having a pint, hiya lads, you know, everything like that, you know, and then they see me, you know, playing in my local pub on a darts on a Monday night, you know, which I still do, to be honest. So it's, you know, when they see, oh, and look at him here now, you know.
Yeah, he didn't ever get into that superstar.
Yeah, like that. Look at him here now. Oh, we'll go and watch him. He's one of us, and I take a great proud in that people like me for Ricky, not just Ricky the world champion. They like me for Ricky and they support me for Ricky. Yeah.
So who put the first set of gloves on you?
I actually went kickboxing first, just in the local kickboxing club on Hattersley Estate, and I was all right, not too bad, but I've always been a little bit short and stocky, you know. So I think from day one they could see I was, you know, I could punch a little bit, but as I was trying to get close, you know, to punch, you know, with being a bit of a short ass, you know, I couldn't get near them, so I was getting my teeth kicked in, to put it bluntly. And then my kickboxing coach said to me, "Listen, Ricky, Richard, it was back then. It's clear to see you've got a talent with your fists. You know what I mean? You're coming in and you're aggressive, and you know, when minute you get there, you're hitting them with a few, and that's that, you know." But he said sometimes you're struggling getting there, so why don't you give the boxing a bit of a go? It might be more up your street. So then I went to the Louvre Boxing Club, which is in Hyde, which is still there now, it's still going now, and it's only 500 yards from where we're sat, you know, there down the road, you know. So everything, my whole life is, I don't think I've ever moved out of a 10-mile radius, you know, a 5-mile radius, my whole life. And it basically went from there, where it started, just down the road from where we're sat, to where it ended up, you know what I mean? And then after a couple of years, I moved to the Sale West Amateur Boxing Club under Mr. Paul Dunn. I ended up winning 9 national amateur titles as an amateur. And I turned professional at 18. So to win 9 national titles and turning pro at 18, and I always had that very aggressive style, even in the amateurs, where the amateurs, you know, you used to box a little bit like that, where now all of a sudden they see this little, you know, little stocky, pale kid coming in, rolling and slipping and body punching.
I've seen some of the, it must have been on a camcorder that got captured. I don't know whether it was your mum and dad who captured it, but I remember some footage of you going into them junior fights, was doing the rounds. Can you remember your first amateur fight?
Absolutely. It was at Shell Carrington, and I was 11 years of age. I was boxing for Louvain Gym. Ted Pete was in the corner. Billy Corley was in the corner with me. Unfortunately, we was Ted's cornerman. He passed away a fortnight ago. Believe it or not, 100%. So yeah, and I remember it was against a guy called Danny Reynolds. He was from Leeds. And I won on a majority decision, a split decision. But it was one of them fights. It was my first fight. So you think to yourself, if I have a fight and I flatten him, I'm going to think, whoa, when's the next one, like that. But it was an absolute war for 11 years old. Both of us, toe-to-toe, bang, body shots, heads are flying back, left, right and centre. And there was nothing in the fight, but I got it on a split decision. But it was one of them fights that should have made me go, this boxing, like, on your fucking bike, it's not for me, this. You know what I mean? Yeah, but it didn't. And I knew that's when boxing was probably going to be suited for you. Because when I had that war, I loved it. First time, I think most people, when they try boxing for a bit, they get hit on the chin or the nose, don't they? And they think, oh, that's not for me, that. Try something else.
Yeah, the taste of blood.
Yeah, but then that first fight was an absolute war for me. And I come out and I thought, oh, that was great, that. You know what I mean? Having a war, one-on-one, you with someone, and then your hands gets raised in front of only hundreds of people back then. But you thought, 10 feet tall. And I was hooked then.
And obviously, the brutality of the boxing, I was laughing before because there's a poster there, Robin Reed obviously must have been the headline of one of your earlier fights.
Yeah.
And
well, that was my debut, but that's how
debut?
That's how popular it was back then. I wasn't even on the poster.
So Peter Culshaw is my cousin who's on there.
Really?
Peter,
Yeah.
Was, I think strawweight off. He was like 3 stone soaking wet, Peter.
Yeah.
I think he won the Elder World Championship for one fight. I think he lost it in his first defence. Yeah. And obviously grew up with my kind of grandfather being into boxing. I think he was Navy boxing champion.
Yeah.
I was smart enough to think, I fucking have a game of footy. You have a few tackles, but it's a lot better than getting punched in the face for a living. So obviously the brutality of boxing, I can imagine you're a father, grandfather, obviously Campbell's gone in there and I've seen Matthew's lad won the ABAs. I've seen him on good young fighter.
My niece Lola's that started. Jack's starting now. Both doing really well, It's only early days for them, but unbelievable.
Well, they come from good fighting stock by the look of it.
It's funny, but, the box, my dad used to play for City in the reserves, when it was Lee, Belly and Somerby. He never played in the first team. But he played in the reserves in that era. In fact, he used
That's
to.
Ray, innit?
Yeah, Ray. Yeah.
Ray,
he used to tread Franny Lee's boots in because he was the only one in the club that was size 6 boots.
Blisters
because back in the day, the apprentices used to wear the first team's boots in, tread the boots in. So yeah, my dad's. But the thing is, the point is, that no one in the family had ever done boxing. It was all mainly a football family. So then all of a sudden, when I come along and start giving it a go, and not only give it a go, but aggressively took to it, for, this is for me, you know what I mean? And ever since that, I think all the family's looking at me with daggers as if to go, everyone in the family's doing it now. Campbell's give it a go, Jack's give it a go, Lola's give it a go. The whole family's looking at me, you've started this, you dickhead,
Yeah, you've set the tone for us. So I was going to say that to you, your parents, were they behind you? Because it's a dangerous sport for a kid, obviously boxing.
Yeah.
There's a lot easier sport you can get into. Were they behind you from out the gate?
Yeah, very much so. They were behind me, as a youngster in whatever I did. If it was football, my dad would set me in the... I was at the City School of Excellence up to being 14 years of age, and I played for my county team.
What position?
Right midfield. I played for me. Yeah, I played with Beckham. Yeah.
Or Milner, which
yeah. And I played for my county team, which was Tameside Boys. So I did all right at football, but I think where I went to that city and I was playing for Tameside, and I could see the kids in my group or lads in my group that stood out a little bit more than me. I thought, listen, you've done well to even be here, let alone, but God, you think he's going to make it. There was lads, and I guess lads walked in the boxing gym and looked at me in the same breath.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I'm pretty good, but Jesus, he's going places. Where I used to go playing football, you think I'm not bad, but I'm not on their level. And I think that's why. Then when I was 15, I packed the football in and went straight into boxing, because I think everyone could see that and by that time I'd won about 4 or 5 national titles as well, and it got to a stage where even at 15 nobody wanted to fight me.
Yeah. So what's that first moment where you go, I know I'm special? Because to become special, you've got to believe that way before anybody smells it on you. Well,
I won a couple of national titles, and when I was young, when I was 12, 13 years of age, And even then, I don't think it settled in. But then when I was 15, I got the chance to box for England schoolboys in Russia against the Russian team. And I thought to myself, I think that's sort of when I thought, gee, boxing for England, that's something. I've won my national titles, but to box for England in Russia, I thought, God blimey, I must have something to do here. And obviously, I went over there. I had 2 fights in Russia. I won both them fights. Then I come back and won a couple of national titles. And my coach at the time, Mr. Dunn, said to me, he said, "Listen, Ricky," he said, "I think you've left me as far as from a coaching point of view. You know what I mean? I think I need to take you somewhere where you can go to the next level and be, developed," which I thought was an outstanding thing for me to coach to say. It's not like I've got this kid who's winning this, winning that, so I want him. He knew he took me as far as he could take me. And he then took me to Brian Hughes's in Colliers, the Colliers and Moston gym. Brian Hughes, God rest his soul, which is Pat Barrett's there now doing a great job. And then he took me down to Billy Graham's gym in Salford, where I was sparring with Cal Thompson, Ensley Bingham, Steve the Viking Foster, Paul Burke, Andy Olligan. Andy Olligan from Liverpool was being trained by Billy at the time. And I started going down there, because I used to box as a professional, and then I started learning. I was boxing with all these champions. And I learned so much going down there. And I think when Cal Thompson, who was like the world cruiserweight champion, he had them 2 wars with Chris Eubank, didn't he?
He beat Eubank, didn't he?
He beat Eubank, yeah. And when he started saying, and Ensley Bingham, who was the British champion, Steve Foster was the Commonwealth champion, Maurice Core, the former British light heavyweight champion, they were saying to me, "Listen, Ricky, you've got everything that's going for you. You've got the ability, you've got, looks like you've got the heart, you've got the desire, you've got the stamina, you've got the willingness to take on board, and you're taking everything on board that Billy's telling you, and then you're transforming it into your sparring and your fighting. If you carry on the way you're going and you prove your chin and your stamina and tick all these boxes, which we've all got to do over the years, you're going straight to the top. You're going to be one of the best in the world." And when the current champions are saying that to me, I thought to myself, Jesus, that's when the penny dropped. I thought, if anyone knows, it's going to be these fellas.
Yeah.
And it just gave me such a confidence boost. I had not turned professional yet, but then when I went boxing someone in, say, the boys' clubs or the senior ABAs and that, I thought, you're not coming near me. Look who I'm sparring with. And it just helped me just go to that next level.
Yeah. So you're obviously famous for the connection of, say, they played golf with Tony Bellew. Must have been a week Friday ago, and we're just talking about boxing, the state of British boxing. And we weren't talking about you, but I said, we were talking about Anthony Joshua, and he was talking about how he'd become like a money-making machine. And I said, the fans being with him, everyone wants to see him and Tyson Fury fight. Whether it happens or not, we don't know. And I said to Tony, who do you think's been the most successful British boxer? And without a hesitation, he said, Ricky Hatton. He said, I've never seen the British public get behind a fighter like they did for Ricky. So at what point did you know? Because obviously you were a Man City fan and you had that kind of Man City following because they latched onto you early and knew you were a mad citizen, a mad blue. At what point did you realise that you had a special connection with the fan base?
Well, I think the ball started rolling when I started fighting in Manchester on a regular basis. And at first it was when I was only an Intercontinental champion at the time. And there was 2 other kids from Manchester called Anthony Farnell and Michael Gomez. And when we were just coming through, getting going at Intercontinental level, British title level, we all boxed on the same bill. So we sort of like helped each other, me, Anthony and Mike, we built this reputation.
Remember them? You had them with the Mexican, was he, Gomez?
Yeah. So, and then these crowds get fun. But then I sort of like won the WBU title. So my following went from Manchester, which I think you've got to start your fan base locally when the fans get behind you. And then when I started going boxing for the WBU title, I started boxing in London and stuff like that. I went I just went to sort of like the next level as far as, but because and then Manchester started following me here, and then people would see me fight and see me style and, and stuff like that. And then my fan base started building up around all the country. And then it was like the Manchester Arena, first time I boxed at the Manchester Arena, it was like, 8,000. when I was WBU champion. Then the next time it'd be like be 12, then it'd be 16, then it'd be 20, then it'd go up. And then when I eventually go to Vegas, my first fight in Vegas, I think, was Urango, which was 10,000. Then the Castillo went 20,000. And then the Mayweather fight, 40,000. Do you know what I mean? And then when I went with Man and RG, it was 20,000. And then, you know, it was just like how it went from just like, you know, the small old shows, you know, leisure centres, you know, just local, you know, Widnes Leisure Centre, you know, Everton Park.
Yeah.
Boxed there loads of times. And then when I went WBU town, then I left Mike, and not left him behind, in fact, because I mean we all helped each other. But then when I went WBU champion, I started topping the bill at the Manchester Arena. To see it just go like that, it was unbelievable. And I think it was, I guess we spoke earlier, I think it's because my style of fighting was good. And then when they stick the mic under me, it'd always be, oh, thank you to Billy, you know, for everything you're doing for me, and thank you for the fans for coming to support me, and thanking this. It wasn't, no, I'm great, I'm going to knock him out, you know, like that Mayweather. Look at me wristwatch, look at me bling round the neck. None of that with me, do you know what I mean? Thank you to my support from Attersley and all the support from Manchester. You know, the crowd was fantastic. They helped me through it tonight. Thank you for Billy for all your things to do. They used to, you know, and then they'd see me down the pub as the Jack the Lad. Hey, you know what I mean? So I think they could say I was an exciting fighter. I was very, very aggressive. I was respectful, and you know, and I'm grateful to everyone who's helped me along the way. I was funny. I had a sense of humour. I was a Jack the Lad. And I think everyone just looked at me. He's one of us. Let's get behind him. And I think that's why it went like that so quickly.
So you turned pro at 18. Did you feel ready?
Yeah, more than ready, to be honest with you. I think I'd like to have gone to the Olympics or something like that. I mean, I got a bronze medal in the World Juniors when I was 17, which showed me I was certainly capable of going to the Olympics. But I won the World Juniors, and then the Olympics came a few months after. So then, a few months after the Olympics, I turned 18. So I was old enough to go professional, but if I wanted to go to the Olympics, I'd have had to wait another 4 years, you know, for the Olympics to come round again. And if the truth be known, it would have been nice to have gone to the Olympics, you know. What another thing you could have added to my CV. But I, ever since I went training with the professionals at 16 years of age, I thought to myself, I love this game, boxing. I absolutely love it. You know, first time I got it, I loved it. Oh, when's my next fight, you know? And I think I used to love seeing, you know, the going training with the lads in Ensley Bingham, you know, turn up at the gym for training. Steve Foster, you know, Carl Thompson, you know, Paul Burke, you know, going, you know, as hard as the game boxing is, they're getting paid for doing something they love. And I mean, you know, how many people have a job like that where they go to work and they absolutely love it? No, and I mean, I thought to myself, I want to be like these. I want to be 18 years of age, you know, going to the gym, doing something I love, training every day, chucking me bag in the boot, getting to the gym, learning, you know, and that's what I wanted to do.
And I think that's what people miss with the amateur game. And you see lots of really, really good amateurs who can't quite transition into the pro game. You know, the head guards come off and the scoring system's different. Yeah. And did you always feel, like, I remember playing kind of academy football and first team football, but I was like, I want to play men's football. I want to get in a stadium where there's a crowd and there's loads on the line, you know, in terms of points in the league, whereas, you know, it wasn't quite life and death in the academy and in the reserves. Was you just wanting that further challenge? Did you think, if I get this, it'll bring out another gear to me? Yeah,
I was more suited to the professional game as well, to be honest. And I did, you know, when you think, you know, I won 9 national titles as an amateur, you know, before I turned professional when I was 18. But to do that with a style that wasn't really suited. You know, I got beat a couple of times in the amateurs by a guy called Jürgen Bremer. And back then it was computer scoring, you know, where, you know, it was like, minute of shot lands, ding, you know, so, you know...
Didn't you have to press? Two judges had to press at the same time?
2 out of 5 judges had to press at the same time or something like that. So, you know, because I was like slipping and rolling and body punching and like that, so you fight these big lads, certainly on international level, where they go, ding, there's 1 point, I'm coming in, ding, there's 2 points. And... where, you know, they didn't score body shots. I used to watch tapes.
You're taking one to get in and get your shots off.
And I'd get in there, I'd go bang, bang. And then I'd watch it back and, you know, nothing scored. Do you know what I mean? So I thought, Jesus, I'm getting pinged. He had to go in back and forward like that. I'm giving him with 2 body shots. Oh, he's feeling them, but he's like, after the first round, he's 7 points in front of me.
Yeah.
So I don't think my style was as well as I did as an amateur. I don't think my style was most definitely more suited to the pro game. But I used to just watch. Going with all them champions, having the banter every day. They're laughing and they're joking and they're talking and discussing. And I'd get in the ring sparring. And when I get out the ring sparring, when's the bin going to come over to me? Rick, that round, you're doing that, you're doing this. Don't do that, don't do that. Oh, my God.
Yeah, you're with the
it's
men,
like,
aren't
yeah,
you?
it's like, all your heroes, Joey, you're watching, playing football. You're a youngster playing football and you're watching your heroes playing football. It's like being with them every day, giving you advice.
Them, yeah. It's nothing better, and you get in, and then you can compete.
Yeah.
Do you mean? And you go before you don't really realise you're one of them.
Absolutely.
It takes you a while, and you're like, and in the end, you're like, fucking hell, actually. It's only when you look back, maybe 10 years later, you realise.
Incredible. I was blessed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a thing people miss, I think, with boxing is a lot of it is on ticket sales, in terms of, the fans come and watch you. If you're a young fighter up and coming and you've got an exciting style, or you've captivated a fan base and you can sell 1,000 tickets, 1,200 tickets, all of a sudden you get on better shows. And straight out the gate, because of your style, you captivated fans and you was a big ticket, in terms of even when you're on the undercards. But then you start to back it up with performance. So, as you rightly point out there, you were always built for the pro game.
Yeah, and even now, to be honest with you, the more tickets you can sell, makes now. If you're selling a shitload of tickets, every time you fight, every promoter's going to want you on the undercard. And even though boxing has changed so much over the years, it's still the same. If you're a big ticket seller, the promoters are going to want you. And if you've got an exciting style where they can sell you to TV, an exciting television style, you're made for it. And boxing, from that point of view, hasn't changed. But I think it has changed a little bit in the fact that it's watered. I think it's watered down a little bit now. We've still got some great fighters out there, great fighters coming through, fighters that are making us proud and have made us proud and are going to make us proud. There's really good times in boxing, because the best are fighting the best a lot more so these days than that. I just think, it's sometimes you've got YouTubers fighting mixed martial arts and mixed martial arts fighting rappers and then boxers fighting mixed martial arts and everything like that. And sometimes you say to kids today, you go, listen, what do you want to be? Do you want to be famous and have a load of money, or do you want to be a world champion? And the majority of them say, I'd rather be famous and have a load of money than be a world champion.
Well, it's the OnlyFans kind of culture as well.
Yeah, and no judgment to anyone who's going down that road. I mean, it's just... I want to be the world champion more than anything or something now, but some people will probably, as long as they're famous and as long as they're getting a load more money, then they seem to be going down. People want to be famous more than a world champion.
Yeah, well, I was going to speak to you about that, because I might need to train me, because there's a few of these misfits people who've been giving me a bit of shit. So
really? Yeah.
I might have to get in and give them a fucking pasting.
It's whether you're a misfit or whether you're, whatever to get in the boxing ring, I'll always take my hat off to you. But when it used to be, that Turkey Sheik is making the best fight the best now, and he's doing good for boxing and this and that. But there's other sides of boxing, that I think to myself, the fan base they get and the following they get, and and the money they generate, and sometimes some are fighting for a fight here, for triple the money than what you're fighting for the world title. It's just, and to be honest with you, it's the way the world's gone.
Do you think the rise of the UFC's kind of forced boxing? Because for a lot of time, not so much you, but in the aftermath of you, people kind of wants to, because of Floyd Mayweather, everyone wants to keep that 0 on the record to be considered, one of the greats. And you'd see a lot of people avoid fighters and pump the records up by, I'm not saying knocking cans over, because everyone who gets in the
UFC said, didn't they, as long as you're entertaining, you make a good fight, doesn't matter if you get beat, we're going to use you again, aren't you?
But I'm saying the rise of the UFC to kind of challenge boxing from a combat aspect, do you think that's what's accelerated kind of the best now start fighting the best in boxing?
Yeah, I think boxing had to pull the finger out, to be honest with you, because I was going to Vegas and training, and I was training in Vegas. I was fighting Urango and I was fighting Castillo, and I was walking down the street, and some of the British fans were asking me for the picture, and some of the American fans were coming up and going, who are you? Are you a UFC fighter? UFC at the time in Vegas, UFC was making proper headway. Do you know what I mean? And even though my fight against Castillo was massive, the fans that went over and everything was massive. I think the majority of Americans, you won't believe how many times people come over and said, "Are you UFC? Are you a fighter?"
Well, to be honest, if you were born now, when you thought about your kickboxing background, you might have ended up in the UFC rather than a boxing gym. Because when you go into kickboxing, they might have said, "You're better going to MMA gym."
You never know. Because I was short and stocky and used to fight close quarters and holding and hitting and body punching. There's every way that probably could have been. But I think, UFC have done an absolutely fantastic job, aren't they? One champion, you've got to fight. Best fights the best. And I think...
Yeah, but the money's shite compared to the boxing, isn't it?
Yeah, but I think but because of that now, boxing is more and more... Back in the day, there used to be, how many times when, Chris Eubank, for instance, who's obviously a hero of all of ours, growing up and that, he was the WBO champion. And I think he made a record 15 defences and that, so... But...
When I was growing up, that was him, Ben, Steve Collins, and then Joe Calzaghe, Michael Watson, obviously, and then that was all on ITV.
But people used to win the world titles and then just go and make a load of defences. And you're thinking, hang on a minute, make a few defences, get a few quid in, and then fight the other champions. But back in the day, they didn't. They used to get their own belt and go and do their own thing. And I think since UFC come on, like you were saying, UFC come on with one champion, the best fighting the best and that, I think that helped boxing a little bit because they thought, you can't let you go and defend your title, win your title, then go and have 15 defences with it without fighting one of the others.
You want to see the best fight the best. Like,
of course you do.
We all love football. You all want to see Everton against Arsenal, but everyone really wants to watch Real Madrid, Barcelona, or the best in the world compete. That's why the Champions League's so special. Yeah. And I think boxing certainly... not so much your era, but certainly after that, I think there was a lot of people to keep their O or keep their belt were avoiding. Whereas the greatest respect to you, you were a champion and you wanted to go and fight the best. You were like, I want them fucking belts. I think I'm the best in the world and I want to prove I'm number one.
When I say to prospects now, that have come, young prospects in the pros, and certainly, young kids in the amateurs. And the young kids in the amateurs, aren't they? They might be 13 years of age, they'll lose a fight, and it's the world, innit? They're in tears and everything like that. And I say, hang on a minute. I say, hey, we all lost loads of fights as an amateur. It's not where you start, it's where you finish. As long as you can learn from it, you're only 13. Look at all the boxing you've got ahead of yourself. And even when lads, have a defeat in professional fighters, listen, I use my brother Matthew as a prime example because he lost a couple of 6-rounders and he got disqualified in an 8-rounder. We stayed at it, ended up winning the European title, made 3 defences. They went the distance with Canelo Alvarez for the world title. Anthony Crolla, I promoted Anthony Crolla back in the day. He lost a couple of 6-rounders, then he lost a British title fight to Derry Matthews.
He's training now.
And then he carried on. He ended up winning the world title, made a couple of defences, topped the Manchester Arena, filled the Manchester Arena out, and ended up fighting Lomachenko, who was the number 1 pound for pound. So if they're typical examples that if you lose that 0, doesn't mean your career's over or doom and gloom or you're not getting an open opportunity. In boxing these days, you do get an opportunity now. So that 0 doesn't mean nothing now.
But do you think that's a bit more an indicament of society where everybody wants the success without going through the grind and without failing? Because sometimes the only way you fucking learn is by getting humbled.
Yeah, absolutely.
We've been on a journey where you've had enough more knockbacks.
Don't forget, a legacy is made is when, you get getting a pat on the back, whenever you're knocking everyone out and the world's coming along great, everything's, brilliant and everything like that. And then, you find out when your back's up against it and, back's up against the wall, and something goes wrong in your career, then you find out, when you talk about greatness, then you find out how great you are as not just a boxer, as a person. Right, now I've got beat, I've just got knocked out by Mayweather. Let's see what I'm made of here now. Now we'll see what I'm made of. I've had all my own way for so long, and now I've been knocked on my ass. I've got to show that championship quality, and that's it basically.
So Rick, we're talking about the Vegas things, and that's obviously the pinnacle. Fighting them big fights, them super names. But I'll take you back to the early days. Obviously, fighting in them small venues on them undercards. Was it a grind? Did you find it a grind?
Yeah, it was. I didn't find it a grind because I mean, you know, I was very fortunate when I was coming through as a youngster. I got able to box on a lot of Nazi's undercards, Nassim Ahmed's undercards, Madison Square Garden when I was 18 years of age, just my second pro fight.
Kevin Kelly was
Kevin Kelly undercard, yeah. So I was very fortunate, but obviously I'd just come out the amateurs, so I was used to boxing in the leisure centre, the small old shows. Me, like you said there, that poster there against Robin Reid, Kingsway Leisure Centre, that was my pro debut. Yeah. And I was, honestly...
It's mad when you think, yeah.
And then I was, you know, Everton Park, you know, and Bowlers, you know, in Manchester, you know, that's what you got to go for. It was nice to fight on them big shows occasionally, but that's what it's, you know, that's what it's all about. I mean, for that debut, Kingsway Leisure Centre, everyone was sort of like raving about me. This next prospect, Ricky Hatton's coming on, it's his debut, and I was what you call a floater, which means you have two main events, and if there's a knockout, you've got to hang about, you know, so if there's a knockout in one of the first ones, they're going to fill your 4-rounder in, so you get on the TV. Yeah. So I got there, they went, right, Rick, you know, you're on at 7:30, so I got my gloves on and warming up. They went, no, that fight's gone the distance, Rick, you know, take my gloves off. Then the next fight, right, you're going to be on, put the gloves back on. No, that fight's gone the distance as well, you know, so I should have been on at 7:30. I ended up getting on at 12:10 at night. You know, after the Robin Reid Sharifi fight, you know, it was there was only my mum and dad there. You know, the people are sweeping up. Yeah. You know,
it's got to be for your mindset. A good test early doors, isn't it?
Yeah, of course it is. So you know, a lot of people. That's what I tell people. Everyone sees the fights in Vegas and the name up in lights and the Manchester Arena or the Tszyu fight or the fight at the Etihad and everything like that. But you know, when I first turned pro, you know that. You got to do them small old shows, and that's what's character building. It's not all, you know, the big bright light stuff. You know what I mean? I was a carpet fitter for the first 2 years of my professional career, so I could put some petrol money in my car for petrol. You know, and give my mum some board. You know what I mean, and everything like that. You know, do a whole stairs landing, do a lounge carpet fitting, and then go to the gym and train. Yeah. People don't see the small shows that you start off on and. You know, at the minute, you know, until I got a bit of a run together, you know what I mean? I had to fit carpets for my dad, you know what I mean?
Well, you see lads now who were signed, you know, out the gate quite quick, and I see it in football as well in terms of, you know, they get paid a lot more money than they probably should, because there's a completely different mindset now when it comes to recruiting young talent. And back in the day, you had to go and do the hard yards in your apprenticeship, you know, to become obviously a professional later down the line. So you link up with Billy Graham. When I first come to train with you before that Mayweather fight, you were over in Kerry Kay's gym.
That's right,
and Billy was your trainer. What made that bond so tight with Billy the Preacher Graham?
I think our personalities were just very, very similar. I went, like I said earlier, when I first went down, and Mr. Dunn took me down to Brian Hughes' gym. I used to train with Robin Reid, who was the world champion at the time, and Pat Barrett and Delroy Wall were in the gym, and I learned such a lot from Brian and Pat, you know, and all the guys in that Collier's gym, and then I went down to Billy Graham's and I just the way of training, you know what I mean? I was a body puncher, and Billy Graham, you know, was in the ring, you know, and he's got the big body belt on,
I remember
you know, with one of his fighters, and he's moving around, he's got the coach pads on, and he's throwing shots at you, and they had to slip and slide and get out of the way. Big body armour for the body punches. I thought, wow, Jesus, I'm a body puncher anyway, but I mean, he can even fine-tune my body punches, this fella, like that. And then when I started talking to him, we had the same views on boxing. He'd say, well, what do you think about this fight, Rick? And I'd say, well, this, you know. And, you know, what I was saying, he was thinking it before I was saying it. And then what I was saying, he was thinking it. And we just sort of like clicked like that. Yeah. When we talked about boxing, we just went click, click, click. Everything just fell into place of where we were. And then, you know, Billy was like a little bit of a, you know, Jack the Lad, you know, a bit of a rum character. Do you know what I mean? He's in the gym, and he's got lizards and snakes in the gym at the side of the ring. He's covered in tattoos. He smokes 50 fags a day. Do you know what I mean?
Was he a good fighter? Was he a good boxer?
He wasn't bad, actually. Yeah, he wasn't bad, but he was a rumman.
All right.
Yeah, he was a rumman, you know, in the gym, and he turned around. He was a good professional.
I always remember him going out the back of the office on that little thing.
That's right, for the smoke, on the stairs, yeah. But back in the day when I was 16, we used to go outside, down the stairs in the gym in Salford, and we used to sit on the step, and he'd have a smoke, you know, and I'd have a cup of tea, and we'd be talking about, you know, big fights and styles of fights, and, you know, what, you know, fights been and gone. And we talked about dreaming of like being world champion and topping the bill in Vegas and fighting the best weight fighters in the world. And we literally
visualising what you're doing,
literally spoke about that. And it was like, for me sins, and for our sins, I would say, and I wouldn't, advise, I mean, we used to finish a fight, and we'd go out on the piss together, you know what I mean? Have a few pints and a laugh and a joke, you know what I mean? Which that's not, not ideal for your trainer. Back then it probably wasn't ideal, but even more so now. I mean, let's have it right. If my fighters, I wouldn't do it with my fighters.
There's something in that though. Do you mean you obviously the bond you have?
Yeah,
there's something in saying a lot of amateur teams. I grew up with my dad playing amateur football. They would have a pint and a sing-song on the coach.
Yeah.
And a professional level, you couldn't do that every week. But if you can
it was the same with the footballers. When you had your Brian Robsons, didn't you? Your Norman Whiteside, your Paul McGraths, and there was like that bonding.
Yeah.
You'd finish the game and you'd go in the players' lounge, wouldn't you? You'd have a pint and everything like that.
But
that's what me,
in that bond.
Yeah, 100%. And that was what me and Billy were. People say, Ricky, what would you change in your career like that? And I'd say, well, yeah, I guess I could have made things easier if I hadn't put my weight on. If I hadn't gone out and had a pint and been a Jack the Lad and everything like that. But going back to one of the first questions you asked me, that's why people like me. Would I have had the fan base if I hadn't been this little Manchester scallywag, I'm one of the lads, and everything like that. So Campbell now, or any of my boxers now, if they come in the gym, they weigh him before, they weigh him after. If they have a fight, a week later, you can't come back any heavier than this, So, and that's why learning from my mistakes. But would I have personally changed it? I wouldn't. Because I don't think people would have followed me like I did.
I was going to say that to you because obviously you were famous for training hard. I remember seeing you training, saving the Mayweather when you were doing 15 rounds on that bar and the bag, and then going in the ring and spar and going in the ring on the body bag. And I remember thinking, fucking Mayweather's dead. He's got no chance, this fella. Because I've never seen anyone train at the level you were training, and you were fit as a flea. But then you were known for, partying hard in between fights, which, in a tough profession, you'd have to say, and when you put as much into them camps, and then you take the punishment that you do to get the job done in the ring, you've got to let your hair down and enjoy a bit of downtime. Do you think that you could have made it a bit easier for yourself?
I could have been even better than I was, I think.
Well, I was going to say, or some people, you have to have that switch off to then go back and commit to the level of training that you did.
Yeah, well, I did it with one hand tied behind my back, didn't I, to be honest. It made me job so hard. And it's not, it wasn't the getting down to 10 stone from 13 and odd stone, that was doing the damage. I did it perfect every time. That's why I could remain fit, strong, powerful, explosive, go through the gears. It's a cumulative effect what was doing to my body over the period of years. You know what I mean? When you're younger, you can get it off. But then as soon as you start getting a little bit older, a few more 12 rounds under your belt, a few more miles on the clock. Kerry Kay said to me, he said, I don't know how you do this, get this weight or that. He said, but in a few years' time, you do know your body's going to go, Rick, I fucking can't do this anymore. You've done me in. And I sort of reached a little bit of a stage when I started fighting Malignaggi, even though that was a good performance. And then when I fought Paquiao, I could feel in the gym when I was sparring, I couldn't quite get out the way, like I used to. And my punches didn't quite land, they were landing at the end of the shot, just little differences. Probably the same when if your touch isn't quite there or,
Most of my career.
Yeah. So, and that's what they said to me. So I think to myself, if I had have looked after myself a little bit better, because let's have it right, your body pays your bills. You know what I mean? Yeah. If you're doing something that's damaging to your body, you shouldn't really do it. So if I look back in hindsight,
remember it, Rick.
I made it worse for myself. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember our sport professionalised. Kevin Keegan was the manager, and we went from a kind of real. You'll remember it at City before that. Joe Royal. There was a real drinking culture. You had your Richard Dunns, Danny Tiatos. You were probably half with them on a Sunday because you were thick as fees with them. And then Keegan came in and it was the first pre-season where we didn't just run our bollocks off for the first 2 weeks, and we got a ball out. And, and then Wenger and all that, they brought this level of professionalism. All these foreign players coming in brought all these different dietary habits and training habits. Yeah. And I lived through that. I could see the old world.
It's like when Wenger come to Arsenal, didn't he? Didn't he come in and just sort of the diet, the whole...
tomato ketchup, gone, everything off the thing. Because you know, was it, you know, steak and chips. Alan Shearer's famous for having as his pre-match on a Friday, where you couldn't imagine a young player.
Well, don't forget, I had a full English before Kerry Kay's on board with me, and I was WBU champion. I made, won my WBU title. So Billy turned around and said to me, he said, "Listen, Rick," he said, we've got to try, going to try and take it to the next level. We won the WBU world title, but we want to fight for WBAs and IBFs and Ring magazines and stuff like that, So I'm thinking of different things we can do to try and make it better. And I think to myself, let's get a nutrition on, a strength trainer and a nutrition. Billy was very good on the strength side, to be honest, even though he was a boxing trainer. We used to do weights, but we were sort of like playing at it a little bit. So then we brought Kerry Casey, who was the best.
Brilliant, yeah.
Nutrition, strength, everything like that. And when I turned around and he said, right, sat me down and he went, right, Ricky, so what do you do the morning of a fight? What do you have? And I used to say, I go at the butty box in Hyde and have a full English. And I thought he was going to have a fucking heart attack. He went, you what? And he went, what's it like? Didn't you feel it lying heavy on your stomach like that? I thought, no, but I mean, a full English, you can't get more energy inside, I'm not that Kerry, can you? And he must have looked at me and thought, but he thought to himself, this is a good thing, actually, he said, because, we can make you
even better.
So much better than what you've done by just, and that's what sport's done over the years, hasn't it? Whether it be football, whether it be boxing, whether it be nutrition. The boxing now, you don't have raw eggs like Rocky did and chase chickens around the place, do you now? It's not just about what you do in that ring, it's what you do out of the ring.
It's the difference between hard work and smart work, isn't it?
Everything now, and it's the same as we said about football. When Joe Rowe was there and Kevin Keegan all of a sudden come in, and Arsene Wenger came into Arsenal, and everything changed. I guess it's the same in every sport.
Yeah, and again, there's a bit of, as I say, there's a bit of me that there was real merit in the old school. There's lots of it, probably 80% of it, that wasn't good for you, but there was some merit in it. Yeah. Whereas now, I think they're a little bit too robotic and scientific now.
Yeah.
I think getting
it's not
that
a physical
balance,
game no more, is it? Do you know what I mean? I think there's nothing better than when we used to go and watch football, when the winger was attacking the fullbacks and they're whipping in the crosses, and you know what I mean? And it's,
you could put them in the stand in the first 10 minutes.
50-50s, and stuff like that. No, football, I suppose you could say it's improved technically, and that it's not the game it was it? You know what I mean? And
they've lost a little bit of that.
I miss going to that gym, training hard every day and having the banter with all them fighters, having the crack and having the banter and that. And I bet you used to win. You used to love playing the game, main road, whatever, winning the match, going in the players' lounge, having a bit of banter with the lads and that, that's just not, it's a team of individuals now rather than a team of.
But they all have like an entourage around them now as well, do you mean? Because, they've got their own private chef, they've got their agent, they've got, realistically now at the top level, it's very rare.
I suppose is the way to do it, but it's not it's a shame, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I think there's I when I was coaching, I tried to encompass a little bit of that in. Obviously, you're keeping that professional head on and you're trying to upskill and get the better nutrition, better sleep, better training.
I think Pep tries to do that as good as he can. He seems to have that team bonding at City where...
Maybe not this season.
Yeah, no. But when I've seen a couple of the videos they've done, over the years and that, you can see as them all having the crack together and stuff like that. But... boxing, football's all moved on, isn't it?
It's forged. Your friendships are forged when you break bread together, when you eat together, and when you have a beer together. There's lads I've played with who I thought were absolute cunts until we went on the Christmas night out and you had a few sherbets in you and you were like, fucking hell, he's all right.
Not bad, him.
But it was 6 months later, do you know what I mean? And obviously, back in the day, that was worked out a lot quicker because they socialised a lot more.
Yeah.
For you, when you're talking about Billy Graham there, clearly you've made a clicking connection, not just in the boxing ring and in the gym.
I wouldn't change it for the world, but like you say, boxing's moved on. So I wouldn't have any of me boxers doing what I did, yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to say to you there, we spoke before about when you knew you were good at boxing, so you knew it was for you. But there's a different level where you're at a world level. Is there a moment or a fight where you realised that you were a world class caliber fighter?
I think it's when I beat Tszyu for the world title, because to win a world title is something. So special, and to win a world title, the best in the world, just to say it. But which even though that's a fantastic achievement in boxing these days, you can be the best in the world, but it doesn't necessarily mean you're the best in your weight division. You know what I mean? Because you can have a IBF champion, a WBA, a WBC, an IBO, WBO champion, you know. So it's hard to know that, you know, you can't be the best one in division unless you fight the fella that's got all the belts. And the fella that had all the belts at the time was Tszyu. And he was a big amateur, one of the best amateurs in the history of the sport. And then he went professional and he was knocking everyone out, he was bombing everyone out. He had all the belts. He was number 2 ranked pound for pound out of in any of the weight divisions, number 2, and he was a power puncher.
Black shorts,
just,
like Tyson.
Yeah, just knocking everyone out for fun. And he was the number 1 in my weight division. And Frank Warren said to me, Rick, I don't think this is a good fight for us, you know, with your style coming on and how cost you hits. And I went, no. I said, this is my time. I said, listen, I've had 35 fights now. How many fights I'm going to have before I take the plunge? I said, you know, at the end of the day, I said, listen, and he's not fought anyone like me. You know, people are scared of his power backing off. I'm not going to back off. I said, and that might make the difference. And Frank was going, I don't know. I said, listen, Frank, I said, I want to be the best. He said, let's go another route. You know, Vivian Harris, I think, was the WBA champion. And I can't remember who was we had another champion. Yeah, there was someone who was ranked number 1. Let's go and find
Can't have been that good if you don't remember him.
No, Vivian Harris and Champagne Mitchell, we were like 2 and 3, I think. And he said, let's go for them first, this, that. And I went, no. I said, I want to be the best in the world. I've worked hard to get to number 1, you know, so I want to fight. And then reluctantly, and I think half of the whole country felt like Frank, you know what I mean, that, you know, I thought, listen, you know, we're right behind you, Ricky, and I know you've got the heart, the this and that, but this might be a little bit of a step too far. And nobody gave me a chance, you know. I mean, he'd not gone more than 4 rounds in 3 years.
Just flattening everyone.
You know what I mean. And with my style and attacking style, everyone thought, listen, we love your enthusiasm, Ricky, but
just the next level.
And I could tell on the night of the fight, you know, when I got in the ring, the crowd were so behind me, but there was like a nervousness in the, you know, when everyone's thinking, "Come on, Ricky," and then the next minute thinking, "Oh shit," you know. Yeah. So, and I could sense it in the crowd. And like I got off to a good start. First 2 rounds, the crowd was right behind me, and then he set into like a little bit of a rhythm. Rounds 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And you can see the crowd sort of like go, ooh, as if to go, "Oh, it's coming here." And then I didn't. I ended up turning it round about rounds 8, 9, and that started coming on top. And obviously, when I stopped a man of that caliber, of that bigger global name, he was a big name in America. In fact, he was a big name in boxing all over the world.
He was the bogeyman.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden, Tszyu, who's blasting everyone, gets beat by this little Milky Bar kid lookalike from Manchester, quit on his stool at the end of the round. I think America thought, who the fuck's this? And it just opened, that beating a man of that stature opened up the floodgates to America.
So 22,000 in the MEN that night. Talk me through, you're in the dressing room. What you know, obviously you've got all this support and everyone around you, but you're the one who's going to go and walk the fire.
Yeah.
You know who you're facing, you know he's formidable, he was the bogeyman of the division. What are you feeling in that dressing room before that fight? Can you remember?
Well, I was nervous because it's like, yeah, I'm going to do this, going to do that. But then when fight night comes, you're thinking, oh, shit, it's here now, isn't it? You know what I mean? And everyone in the build-up, and even in the papers in the morning, no one had me to go more than 6 rounds. Do you know what I mean? Daily Mirror, Ricky to get knocked out in 4, Ricky to get knocked out in 2, Ricky to get knocked out in 6.
So are you reading that and using it as fuel?
Yeah. And, you know, and I used to say, Billy, have you seen all these papers? They've got his influence. He went, listen, have faith in yourself as your ability. He said, remember we sat down on that step in Salford talking about beating the best in the world and being the best and going to Vegas? I said, well, this is the one. He said, so don't let your ass cave in now, son. After all that talking and working hard we've done to get to this stage, he said, you go out there, have faith in yourself and have faith in that game plan we've put together for this fucker, you know what I mean? And I went, yeah, you're right. And then I get to the changing rooms, you know, and I'm just trying to remember all that, have faith in yourself and stick to your game plan. Just keep your focus, because, I mean, it's very hard, you know, when there's like 22,000, everyone's screaming, you've read these papers the morning before, and then, you got Sky Television, and then you've got it on Showtime Television going across America, going all across the world, and you walk into the ring, the crowd's roaring. It's very easy for your ass to go, or for you just lose that oh shit, do you know what I mean? And I was always, and I think that's the difference between your champions and your great champions, are the ones that can tunnel out all that, the noise, the crowd, the TV, the papers, the this, that, concentrate on just him in front of you. And I was always, I think my self-belief was always one of my best qualities. And, because whenever everyone said I used to do it, I used to use that as my few, you know what I mean? When I got beat by Mayweather, and I went, put a load of weight on, and that was in the paper, Ricky Hatton, he'll never fight again. I thought, I'll fucking show you. I used to,
you kind of needed that? Like, would you create that?
Yeah.
Like Mourinho's famous for us against
and
the
I
world.
created it, but I wouldn't say I needed it. It was just something that was in me. Yeah.
So, would the Costa Tszyu fight, would you say that was your greatest night in boxing?
Yeah, my greatest win, because you're fighting the guy there, number 2 pound for pound. He had all the belts. Nobody expected him. No one expected him to beat me. And to beat him in the manner, if somebody said to you, how could you have your greatest win? Could you write, if you wrote it down, how would your greatest win go? I'd say in Manchester, in front of me people, in front of my own fans, against the fellow with all the belts, the fellow who was pound for pound, one of the best in the sport, not in the weight division, in the sport. And for all the press to write in the papers, this fat little fucker's not going past more than 6 rounds. But then for me to be in the fight when it was a war, going one way, going the other, I'm getting beat up, he's getting smashed up, bang, 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 bang. And then for a champion as formidable as him, if I'd have got him with a body shot in the last round or in the 11th round and knocked him out on that, it couldn't have been better than having a champion like Costa Tszyu sit on his stool after 11 and go,
no more.
I'm done. Leave me alone. I'm done.
3 minutes.
It couldn't have been anywhere. And even after the fight, Costa got the microphone and said, congratulations to Ricky, he was better than me in every way tonight, and I grabbed the mic and I turned around and said, Kostya, thanks for the opportunity, if I can be half as good a champion as you are, I said, thank you. And he went, any help you need, Ricky, I'll always be there for you, I'll give you my phone number, this is in the ring after the fight.
Did you have a pint after?
Didn't have a pint after, no, to be honest, because it was I had a pint, but it was a bit
probably
of
piss and blood.
yeah, it was a bit of a grueler, to be honest with you, but I mean, that never put me off having a pint, no.
So that after the it'd take a lot at that time probably to put you off. So after that Costa Tszyu fight, you explode, titles come, Vegas comes, pay-per-views, all that kind of thing. What was that transition like?
It's very hard, like I turned around and said, my self-belief and my desire when people used to say, you can't do this, you can't do that. And I just refer back to when me and Billy were sat on the steps at the gym in Salford when I was 17, we talked about this, box office, record crowds, boxing at Main Road it was at the time, boxing at Main, I want to box at Main Road, I want to be the best in the world, I want to see my name up in lights like I did all my heroes, Roberto Duran, Sugar Ray Leonard, Hagler, Tyson, I want the lot of it, and I used to talk this at 16, which, in me saying this, people know that's why people like me. I'm not arrogant. I don't boast. I don't brag or anything like that. But my self-belief was my biggest thing. And even though I might not have gone to the press like a Mayweather or a Nassim Ahmed, I'm this, I'm the best, I'm the this, I'm the that, and the best of this. I used to say, well, I'll do my best. I'll train hard. That was me. And that's why people like me. But I had huge confidence.
For them kids out there, that self-talk, Steve Black who we work with, who's no longer here.
I'm not convincing anybody. The only person I need to convince is me.
Yeah, and doing the work does that for you, not cutting corners, knowing you've done the work.
Yeah,
but also,
so when the box office comes and all them things, it wasn't as hard as, it was nerve-wracking, don't get me wrong. All of a sudden you're on box office. Of course more pressure comes, but because of my self-belief in myself, I was always able to cope with it.
And you've done you've done the work, and that self-talk sounds like it was incredibly positive.
Yeah.
I can relate to that myself. That self-talk is massive, and it doesn't always stay positive.
And when you're going in the ring, sometimes if you think I've cheated myself in this training camp, I could have put my foot down a little bit more, or maybe, I should have done this and I should have done that. Nah. I knew when I got in that ring, if he beats me, then I'll be the first to shake him by the fucking hand. He won't have done, because I can't have done any more.
So what was your first impression of fighting in America?
The first impression was, all I could think was just my heroes. When I look at when I boxed at Madison Square Garden when I was 18 on Nassim Ahmed's undercard versus Kevin Kelly, I was just thinking, oh, this is where all my heroes have gone. Not just me American heroes, I mean British heroes. Barry McGuigan, he went to Vegas. Nigel Benn went to Vegas, beat Aaron Barkley. Frank Bruno gone to Vegas. To fight Mike Tyson and that. That's all I could think of is I dreamt for that. See my name up there, on the big
That's
screen.
the thing, you had to go to America. America's the mecca of boxing. Maybe not so much now.
Yeah, it is. And it's like, and America had an opinion at the time where the Brits win their world titles and then they defend them in England against their own, you know what I mean? And then, but the minute they come over to America, they always get flattened, you know what I mean? So the minute I beat Tszyu, I'd cleaned up in the light welterweight division. I wanted to become a 2-weight world champion, which I went to America for my first one in Boston when I won the world welterweight title against Louis Collazo in a really, really close fight. But the fans loved it. It was such an amazing fight. So I always want to do what my heroes done. Be the best in the world at my weight division. Try and become a 2-weight world champion, which you're able to do. See my name up in lights in Vegas. It was just, you dream of that when you first walk through the gym door as an 11-year-old on the council estate, don't you? I want to do this, want to do that, want to do that. So to actually dream it and live it.
Yeah. I mean, we're lucky, aren't we, to... we go through life and we end up living our dreams as
unbelievable,
kids.
Mate, yeah.
So you had thousands flying out. Obviously, I remember the bucket hats and everybody singing Blue Moon. Was there ever a point, because obviously when you've got a fight and you're training, you kind of think, oh, this is what's going to happen every week. Was there ever a point that you actually got a chance to sit back and take all that in?
Not particularly. I think when I fought Mayweather, because don't forget Las Vegas was Mayweather's hometown. And for me to be dropped off outside reception for the the arrivals meeting, and in the MGM Grand, it was just Brits everywhere. You know what I mean? Floyd Mayweather coming, he got booed. It must have been heartbreaking for him in his hometown. If I went to the arrival meeting in Manchester and I'm walking through the Midland Hotel or something like that, and it's full of Americans booing me, that would put my head away a little bit. But I mean, when I watched some to have the crowd like that, I thought, wow. And it's just when people tell me now in years gone by, oh, I was at the Mayweather fight, I was at the Castillo fight, we was in all the bars, all the Brits singing songs, there's only one Ricky Hatton, this and that, to go across to the other side of the world in the entertainment capital of the world and just take it over the place. Most definitely for the Mayweather fight in his own hometown. I don't think that's ever been done in Vegas. I don't think it'll ever be done again.
Well, I was just thinking there when you were talking about fighting Tszyu, it flashed back because a lot of young millennials out there, Rick, we're obviously born post 2000 who'll tune into this podcast, and they've obviously seen in the MMA game Conor McGregor when he beats Aldo. And Conor McGregor, when he's done the press conferences, Ricky Hatton was the Conor McGregor before Conor McGregor even existed in terms of... And I wanted to ask you, he talks about visualising fighting Aldo, because Aldo was a similar 10 years or 8 years world champion. No one had beaten him, and McGregor wanted to fight and obviously ends up with a famous knockout. But he had... however many years it was to study Aldo's style, where Aldo was being a champion and staying at that level. Yeah. So was it similar in terms of Tszyu? You were watching him for a few years out thinking, I can beat him?
100%, because I mean, you might have seen on the TV, on a few documentaries that they've done, but I boxed a guy called Amy McGee, defending my WBU title, and I went over to the United States to watch Tszyu. He fought a guy called Zab Judah for the undisputed titles when Tszyu won all the belts. Judah, and he knocked him out in the second round. He went, boom, missed with a right hand, then threw another right hand, and obviously Zab Judah went down. He jumped up, fell down again. He went down twice with one punch. So Tszyu won it. So I'm there at ringside and I'm thinking, I can beat him, because Tszyu, Zab Judah, everyone's moving away from him. And without getting scientific, but most Eastern European fighters or Russians, they fight like that.
Soviet style.
And then they chop the right hand in. And the right hand's not like a Ricky Hatton right hand, which is short because I'm stocky. The bite of the punch was at the end of the punch. And Tszyu, you know, was like that. So me and Billy were sat there, said, look at him sat on the end of that jab, sent the end of that jab. He's going to cop for this in a minute. And everything that me and Billy discussed and talked about happened in the fight. And he said, the minute he paused, buddy, he paused with that jab, you've got to stiff that jab. He paused, you stiff, and move in on him and get in on his chest. And even if he gets the right hand in on you, even if it gets you in there and not there, I said, you take the sting out of it, you know what I mean? And then when you get there, stay there for the first 2 rounds, work him, stay on him, lean on him, push and shove on him, you know.
So you're walking into the inferno trying to stay away from it?
Let's get him into unknown territory, which would be round 5 or 5 or 6, because he was blasting everyone out. But, you know, me and Billy had that, and we spoke about that because it was a good 3 or 4 years after till I fought him, you know what I mean? Because I made 15 defences on my WBU. And it was. I was able to watch him and study him, and even though I was making my own defences on my WBU title, people always say, "Don't look too far ahead in the future. Just look on your next fight." I went, "No, I'm not having that. I'm not looking past him. Trust me, but I'm keeping him firmly on my mind.
You knew he was the man.
I don't want to be here. I want to be there.
You want to be the man, and he's the man.
Yeah.
So, you were notorious in terms of the way you trained. As I say, I trained with you only briefly when I was coming back from injury before the Mayweather fight, and I said I've never seen anyone train like it. I was like, if anyone can beat that fella, it won't be because of something that was left unturned in the gym. Obviously Mayweather ends up winning the fight, but I think Joe Cortez helped him, and obviously he's an incredible fighter. What was your training camp like? You know, trying to describe to kids out there who obviously may be thinking about getting into boxing. What was your routine like when you were at your peak in terms of your training?
Well, at first, and I wouldn't advise any kids, you know, to balloon up to the weight I was ballooning in, but I used to just spend just the first 2 weeks not jumping the bar, not doing anything physical, just shedding weight.
Slim fast program.
Yeah. Just to break the camel's back.
Yeah.
So that when I did start jumping the bar, if I'd got my weight down, I could start eating proper then and going through the right diet. But I mean, you just got to do it gradually. Listen to your body, you know what I mean? And if I was having a bit of a bad day and I say to Billy, that's the closeness I had with my trainer. I say, Billy, I feel a bit shitty today. All right, we'll have an easy day tomorrow. I said, then we'll put our foot down on Friday. And that's how it's got to be. And it's got to be all stages. And you've got to tick the box, you know. There's no point in, you know, you've got to have your game plan right. You've got to be able to keep that game plan in your mind to be able to carry it through once the bell goes. Hold your nerves.
Punched in the face.
Hold your nerves in order to do so. You've got to make sure there's no point in doing all these rounds in the gym if you mess them scales up. Because if you mess them scales up, all these rounds in the gym, you're not going to be able to put that into practice if we don't nail them scales proper. So, you know, it's you've got to leave no stone unturned. And you've got to be able to, when you do finish the training camp that you've took to look in the mirror, you know, like I said to you earlier, there's nothing I could have done more in this training camp. I've done the weight right, I've got my tactics right, I've done my strength work right. Yeah, I've gone running at the right time, I've done the right miles, I've got the right, you know, speed on my sprints, you know, just everything. And you want to be able to, because if there's that one little bit where you look in the mirror after your training camp and you think, oh, I could have done that a bit better, because boxing's not just about the physical, it's a mind game in it as well. And I suppose that could be anything in life. Football, if your mind knows that, I've not quite done it right. I knew that after every fight I could look in the mirror and there was no faults. And I think that's the way you've got to do in everything you do in life. You've got to be no stone unturned. Everything's got to be positive, done correctly. And like I said, that's for football, boxing.
To be the best
whatever.
at whatever you want to do, and obviously your level.
And if you don't, you're not going to be the best, are you? You know,
world level. You know, you've got to. There's no stone unturned. I never got to that level, Rick, in terms of the best in the world for what I did. You know, playing the Premier League's a good level, but to be the best in the world, you know, the 1 and 2 people in the world who have
you've got to look, especially in the fight. You're going in there in the hurt game, the hurt business. You're going to get hurt. You're putting your body on the line. Some respects might sound a bit brutal, but your life on the line in many respects. You know what I mean? And you've got to be able to look in that mirror, and you know, so you know when you get in that ring. If you beat me, like I said earlier, repeat myself, but you know, I'll be the first to shake your hand if you beat me. Because if you beat me, there's nothing I could have done better. And I think that's anything you do in life, you've got to give it your best.
So you're renowned as one of the best body punchers, certainly when you were in your prime. You know, that's what I remember you as probably one of the best body punchers of all time. Did that come naturally, or was that something that you drilled?
Something I always had when I first started at when I started at Louisville Light with Mr. Ted Peake, God rest his soul, and then I moved to Sale West with Mr. Dunn, God rest his soul as well. But Paul Dunn was a former amateur professional. He's a former amateur professional champion. And he taught me how to slip and roll and catch shots and slip shots and body punch, which was a little bit, at the time, it was just before the computer scoring had actually come out. But I mean, back in then, if you were taught, that's it, elbows in, knees up, there's your jab, back leg out first, front leg in first, right? And then all of a sudden they've got this little Milky Bar kid coming in, slipping and sliding, so
it was like a Mexican style you'd have, wasn't it? Come forward, fighter.
And he taught me how to body punch, And I was in the amateurs, used to just knock everyone out with body punches. 1 minute, 30 seconds. It was weird, People who remember me from the amateurs, it was body punching in the amateur boxing. It was sort of like a little bit unheard of. But then when I went to Billy Graham and I walked in the gym and I saw Billy get that body belt on. And I was, and he had, I can't remember who he had on the pads at the time, but mine, I could left up to the body. When I was amateur, I could left up to the body, I could right up to the body, you know what I mean? And then 1 minute, Billy Graham's got this lad on that, I can't remember who it was, but he slipped in the body, right, and he went left to the breadbasket, and this box went, and he threw it up the middle, not round the side, up the middle. And then he went up the middle, round the side, he went up the middle, round the side. And then he went round the side, up the middle. And then he went right side, change the angle. And then they throw right one round the side. And then they change the angle, get the feet to get up the middle, which ended up being one of my signature moves, wasn't it? Slip to the side with a body shot. And I was just sat there watching and I thought, wow, wait, imagine me learning this. Do you know what I mean? And Billy was like, put one up the middle there. Because if it goes up the middle, they bring the elbow in, which leaves the opening round the side. But then if you go behind the elbow, then it leaves the middle open. And then sometimes if you can't get them in because their elbows are too tight, you've got to use your feet to change the angle so you can get it through the middle and stuff like that. And I was always a good body puncher as an amateur. Paul Dunn set me me on the right road. But then Billy just fine-tuned it. I went from having just a left hook to the body to having a right to the body, a left to the body, a left to the bed basket, a right to the bed basket, change the angle, get the left up the middle, change the angle, get the right up the middle, stabs with the jab, you know what I mean?
So Paul laid the foundation, Billy built the house.
Absolutely.
So we go into the Mayweather fight. Obviously, you're unbeaten going into that. How big was that fight, or how big was that moment in your life?
It was massive. The Tszyu was obviously the biggest fight. Tszyu was number 2 ranked pound for pound, and he had all the belts. Tszyu was even one above him. He was the number 1 pound for pound fighter in the world. He was unbeaten. I was unbeaten. And it was like England versus USA. And it was like they did a 24/7 program. I don't remember the 24/7 programs. Yeah. They were absolutely brilliant. And I think mine and Floyd's got an award for being, the documentary of the year or something like that.
I'm on it. I was in your gym. I'm
That's
in the
right.
background. That's my claims of fame.
That's why I won it. That's why I won documentary of the year.
Fuck it, they got you kicked off if I was on it.
But yeah, but it was everything about it. It was, England versus USA.
I remember them filming in the gym when I was there. Yeah, I remember them.
But it was like good cop, bad cop. Do you know what I mean? They sent 4 people over to Manchester from HBO to video me, and 4 people from HBO went to Las Vegas to video Floyd, and it was just good cop, bad cop, to be honest with you. The 2 teams would keep in touch with each other. They say, "What did you do last night?" They said, "Oh, we went to Floyd's gym." We said, "We'll get there at 10 o'clock. He didn't turn up while 12:30 at night, this, that, and all that." So he said, "What did you do last night?" He said, "Well, Ricky trained in the morning. Then he went running about tea time." He said, "Then we're just in his local pub here now where he's playing darts. It's called the Clark's Arms, you know what I mean? And Ricky's team's playing for the New Inn." And I'm introducing him to all my mates in the pub, all the characters in the local pubs. And my mate of mine, the Duck. I don't know if you remember the Duck. He used to come to all the fights. And they go, and he used to go, and he used to walk like that. I said, "This is my mate, the Duck, interview him." He'd come to all the fights and that. And the lads were having a beer, and it was just training hard, working hard, me, you know what I mean? But, just I can't believe how down to earth he is and normal. We go round to his house and this, that, watch him play darts, and he comes to the match with us. Oh, this is what I normally do, but before I go to the match. I'm in training at this time, so I'm not drinking or anything like that, but I'm just trying to give him an inkling of, what my training camp is. I still never forget to go here, do this, do that. And just the opposite to Floyd, basically. You
can see that on the documentary. It was chalk and cheese.
So, and I think that's what, and that 24/7, it made the fight even more, because the Brits were seeing, each week we're seeing Floyd, with his arrogance and, bling blings here and there and everything like that. And then you see Ricky, Jack the lad, for his supporters and for the local people and I think it just made that 24/7 made the fight even bigger. It was great.
Oh, it was a brilliant documentary.
And they didn't just do mine and Floyd. They did all the big fights and that. And it was the best boxing documentary show.
Yeah,
you could
it's
ever
brilliantly
see.
shot.
It was brilliant.
But for you now, it must be brilliant to look back because it's captured that bit of time in history. Because you would never have recorded on camcorders.
You see it on YouTube 24/7. It was unreal.
Must be brilliant to show the grandkids that you're going to have the ability to show them.
Yeah.
Where's your granddad here when he was fucking...
Yeah, and it's like when you think to yourself, I was
your granddad.
I was devastated. Saw it myself. But I was devastated when I got beat by Mayweather, goes without saying. And for years, certainly the first few years after it absolutely ruined me mentally. You know what I mean? I was devastated. Couldn't leave the house. Didn't want to. No functions, didn't attend any functions. Couldn't even walk down the street in Hyde because I felt like everyone was laughing at me, and they wasn't. They couldn't have been any prouder. But in my own mind, that's how bad it affected me.
It's strange saying that though, because I can kind of understand that if you hadn't lost as an amateur and you were just steamrolled everybody, and then that was your first loss. But you said you'd lost a few times as a young fighter, and when you think about Mayweather, it wasn't like you got beat by some fucking journeyman. You got beat by someone who's got an incredible legacy.
That's the way I look at it these days. At the time, I was like, oh God, I've let everyone down, this, that, all the rest of it. And I'd let no one down, made everyone even more prouder. But
just the way the mind was
working.
Just
the way the mind was working at the time. I think that was the start of my... when my head started falling off a little bit, my mind, 1 minute my head was up, 1 minute my head was down. Got beat by Mayweather. So my head fell off, and then I boxed at Man City, so I'm back up again. Then I fell out with Billy Graham, so my head fell off again. Then I went to Las Vegas, Nolan Liam carried the belts in, beat Balinardi, so my head was back up again. Then I got beat by Manny Pacquiao. I had to retire then, and then I fell out with my mum and dad as well, and I was sat in the house one day, I sat in the settee, and I thought to myself, well, you've got no boxing no more, I've had to retire, I've got no, just split up with my missus. Not speaking to my mum and dad, not speaking to Billy Graham. I thought, what the fuck am I doing here for? What am I living for? Got nothing to live for here now. And I didn't care whether I lived or died, and it was a real horrific time for me.
How old was you there, Rick? How old was you when that happened?
Well, I think when I fought Pacquiao, about 30, 29, 28, something like that.
So you're still young.
28, 29, still young and that, but just sat there, with everything that you did it for. Your parents, me and Billy were like that. But the main thing is, I tried to get right, tried everything to do it, and I couldn't do it myself. So then I realised, I said, listen, Rick, you need help. I can beat him, I can do this, I can do that, but I can't fix this, so I need help. And I went and spoke to someone. I went and got help. And it was the best thing I ever did. And when I think to myself, if I had taken my own life, look of how much that I'd have lost out on. You know what I mean?
There's a few boxers who've done that, isn't it? There's the lad who Gatti and Ward was Gatti.
Yeah.
So Tyson Fury's been really vocal about his mental health struggles. Yeah. Obviously yourself, you've been, very honest about that. Because it shows you, even if you are a world champion, one of the best in the world, that, if you don't keep on top of stuff...
Yeah,
and
you're not made of stone, yeah.
Yeah, none of us, and that it can creep up on you. When you're talking about, you're at the absolute pinnacle, fighting the best in the world, beating Tszyu, then you're fighting Mayweather, you've got fanatical support right across the world, right across this country, and yeah,
and then
the old
then
mental health
when it's
monster.
all gone, and you've not got Billy to spend it with, you've not got your missus to spend it with, you've not got your mum and dad to spend it with. What am I going to do now? How am I going to replace that? What am I going to do now? You know.
And now your life's turned round again. You're in you had the babies there in the house.
Yeah, well, that's what I look at. Look, if it had took me life, I wouldn't have seen my granddaughter, Lila. I wouldn't have seen Campbell make me proud and go professional. I wouldn't have seen my 2 granddaughters. I've made up with Billy. I've made up with my mum and dad. I had a documentary come out, Sky Documentaries, that got a lot of good feedback, from that. I did an exhibition at 44 years of age with Marco Antonio Barrera at the Manchester Arena. Foolishly, I went on the fucking ice skating, didn't I? Ended up on my arse again.
But you were getting a few quid.
But the main thing is, look at the positive things I've done because I didn't.
Yeah.
And you do think that, the bad times are going to last forever, but they'll only last forever if you sit on that settee feeling sorry for yourself. And I get why people do feel sorry for yourself, because when your head falls off, it's bad. And it couldn't have got any worse for me, but there's only one people can do. I got my ass up off that couch and went and got it off my chest. Because you can't share it with your mates. You can't walk in the vault and go, listen, lads, can I share something with you? I'm crying every day and I want to slip my wrist. What do you think I should do? You can't do that. I didn't want
women have got a natural inbuilt thing where they can share their emotions and the feelings,
with the mates,
whereas men,
which is
we
nice.
just don't do it, do we?
Yeah, and it's like, I didn't want to share it with my family because, I thought to me, I don't want to worry them. So what I'd do, I'd keep it in, and whenever I come in public or come to the gym, I'd put a brave face and, hey, yeah, you okay? How you doing, Rick? Yeah, great, yeah. Go back home, tears, crying, settee, horrific. And that's why, now I'm trying to give a little bit back to boxing, which has been so good for me. What me and my family have due to what boxing has given me. Don't get me wrong, I know I worked hard for it, but what boxing, the sport, has given me and my family, that's why I train and want to try and bring the next ones through. And if I can give a little bit of what I've got to someone else. And then I'm an ambassador for mental health. I do motivational speaking here, there and everywhere, where I'm talking to people that, that are in the same boat, on the same boat as I was in a few years ago, trying to give a little bit back to people that have been in my shoes where I was a few years ago. And that's what I'm doing now. I'm trying to be the best dad I can be, the best granddad I can do, spend time with me kids and me in the gym, try and bring the next one through. If anyone's in a bad way, I'm there to try and help you best I can, you know what I mean? And that's my day-to-day weekly thing now.
I was going to say that if there's anybody watching this podcast who is, having struggles in life, and no doubt there will be, what bit of advice would you give them, Rick?
I think you just got to go and speak to someone. Do you know what I mean? I think the high majority of people that...
professional?
Yeah. I went and spoke to someone. I went, listen, I thought, at first, Millie, my first daughter, came along. She was born, and I thought, listen, that's going to get me back on the straight and narrow that. And it didn't. And I thought to myself, this is worrying. If having a beautiful little baby girl can't get me back on the straight and narrow, you're not going to be able to do this on your own. So I went to Manchester, knocked on the door, fell on my knees, put my arms round this fella's legs, and I said, you need to help me today. If you can't tell me today what I need to do here, I said, I'll be fucking dead next week. I will not be here. And I got myself in a little routine with his advice, and he was talking to him, and I used to go every day, and then I went every couple of days, then I went once a week, got myself in my own little routine. And, still have it. Some days I'll wake up, about, what's up with me? City won 3-0 yesterday. What's up with me today? I can't tell you why, but sometimes you just have it. And I go out, get up, I'll come in the gym, hit the bag, then I go for a little bit of a walk, go and see my kids, pick my kids up, take my kids out. You got to get yourself in a little routine, and and I did that because I went and spoke to someone. I found it easier getting it off my chest to a stranger because I didn't feel I could talk to him, mate. I've got good mates, and I didn't want to worry my family. And I felt more comfortable, he don't know me, I don't know him. And I felt more comfortable getting it off my chest.
I've had exactly the same. I went to Sport and Chance Clinic and met a fellow called Peter
K.
Chance, not the comedian, Peter. And I was the same. I was like, where I'm from, probably similar. You don't fucking show emotion. Emotion's weakness.
Yeah.
That's what, I've never seen people cry or anything. It was like, fucking suck it up and get on with it. And I just remember I was at a low ebb and I just became vulnerable with him, and I thought, what have I got to lose? I feel like shit. Shared a little bit with him, and it felt like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders.
Yeah,
and I was like,
well,
fucking
in fact, and like when I do me talks, and and people come up and go, "Oh, Rick," tell you, grown men in tears, I mean, "Oh, Ricky, oh, what you spoke there and how you said of that, oh, absolutely, brilliant. I'm so glad I bought a ticket and I come to listen to you to explain this and that, and that's like every week, and that's not just the odd one person. That's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 per talk coming up to talk to me. So, "Oh, Ricky, get that," and to be honest with you, I find that helps me. Knowing that I've helped someone, that's my medicine a little bit as well.
I used to ask Peter. He was a psychologist, but he'd been in addiction. He struggled with, I think, cocaine and alcohol, and nearly killed himself through drinking. And I said to him, like, "You helping everybody? Like, what do you get out of it?" And he said, "You'll figure it out later on."
Yep.
And it's exactly what you're describing there. You know what I mean? He always said about a problem shared is a problem halved.
Absolutely, yeah.
And
there's no as a man. There's no shame. I mean, you didn't want to tell your mates. You don't want to tell this, but you don't need to tell your mates. You don't need your family. You can still go and speak to someone.
But again,
that's what I did.
If you can create an environment where you can have a laugh and a joke, but it looks like you've created an environment here where if anybody is struggling, they can pull you because you've been transparent and honest about it. They obviously look at you as a world champion, but also I think knowing you're a man of the people and seeing that you've had your ups and downs like any normal human being. So fair play to you for that. I want to pull you back now before we end up running a Samaritans type interview here to the Mayweather fight. Going into that fight, obviously being who he is, it might be a stupid question this, but did you really believe you could beat him?
Oh, no doubt, because I mean I'd lost a few fights as an amateur, you know what I mean, but I had 75 amateur fights. I lost 5 as an amateur. But yeah, I'd not lost. I was unbeaten in 45 fights as a professional. I'd never been beat. I'd never been knocked out. Anything like that. And until you've got beat, you don't think you can be beat, do you? You know what I mean? And don't forget, I'd walked through Tszyu. No one thought I could do that. Everyone said I was too small to become a 2-weight world champion. I've done that. You know what I mean? And I saw Floyd Mayweather fight a few fighters. He fought Castillo twice, and he beat him twice on points. But the first fight, I thought Castillo beat him, to be honest with you. There wasn't much in it. It was very close, but I thought Castillo beat him. And then he fought a guy called Marcus Maidana and beat Maidana on a split decision. And Maidana was a lot bigger puncher than me. He was a big puncher, Maidana. But I don't think, an all-round boxer, he wasn't as good as me. So I'm thinking to myself, well, if Castillo, who I've beaten 4 rounds, and Maidana, who I don't think's as good as me either, has pushed him right to the limit, I said, I've got a better chance than anyone he's ever boxed. As long as I'm allowed to. I thought I'm never going to outspeed him. I'm never going to outspeed him. I'm not going to outbox him. But if I do get close, I'll throw more punches than him, and hopefully I'll be able to overwhelm him, keep on his chest, and I think that would have worked. But then
there's a lot of boxing people who speak about that fight. I'm a boxing fan, but don't really know at the level you do, and. Obviously some fighters lose a fight and they blame all kinds of manner of things. And the referee, Joe Cortez at the time, was highly criticised for not allowing you, to get in there and bring your game plan into it. Do you believe with a different referee that could have been a hell of a different fight?
I do, absolutely. But I'm not like I don't sit here like it sounds hypocritical, but I'm not sitting here like saying. The reason why I got beat by Floyd Mayweather, was because of the referee. I'm being an idiot. It's Floyd Mayweather, for God's sake. Look who he's beat after me and before me, and look what he's done him back then. But if we're going back to Castillo nearly beat him in the first, should have beat him in the first fight, and then Maidana pushed him close. You know what I mean? There's no reason why I shouldn't have fought. If I'd have been allowed to get close, but I wasn't. So I think the referee had a bad night. I'm not saying the only reason why I got beat was because of the referee, because I might have had another referee. Mayweather might still have beat me because it's Floyd Mayweather. But I think whatever chance I had of beating him, and I did have a good chance, I had a better chance of beating him than anyone he's ever boxed. But the only chance I had, would have been if I'd had a referee who'd have let me get close.
Yeah, get in there.
Not saying I'd have won anyway, but the only chance I did have is if I'd have had a referee that had let the fight flow and let me get close to him. And I didn't, did I? So I've got to turn around and say, listen, I could have beat him. And if you're asking me the main I might not have done, but the main reason why I didn't is the referee.
Yeah. So obviously you're preparing for a fighter and you're watching a fighter and you're thinking, right, I can fucking do him. Was sharing a ring with a fighter then, I imagine, is a completely different thing. Was there anything about him in the ring that surprised you?
Just very, very clever. I knew he had a good defence, but I knew he had a very good boxing brain as well. He knew when to ease back, let the storm blow itself out a little bit, as they say, and then knew when to put his foot on the gas at the right time. Because you've got to know in boxing when your opponent wants to rest, you've got to spot it and put the pressure on him. But then when you want to rest, you've got to try and nick a breather by some by hook or by crook. And he was very, very good at that, to be honest with you. And I know he had a little bit of help on that, but remember when I got him on the ropes, I mean, my left hook to the body, I could put it on a 5p piece, couldn't I? Boom, boom, bang, you know what I mean? Like the Castillo fight earlier. But he always defensively seemed to get a little bit of a block on it, or a little bit of a pull, or a little bit of a shoulder, you know what I mean? And even when I got one through and I landed one, it was never flush, because he was able to slip and slide. And even though I went back in the change rooms after the fight and I thought to myself, having a little moan obviously about the referee, but it's the first time in all my fights where I've had to sit in the changing rooms and think to myself, fucking hell, he was good. Yeah, first time, referee, as we've discussed, but it's the first time I sat there and I thought, wow, I've never known anybody just, when I'm searching for that body shot, just pick it off, you know what I mean? And even when the punches got through, they were only half. They were never the full bite in him. It was always, he'd just make it at the end of it, or he'd just squash me punch, or he'd just get an elbow on. It was it's a work of art, which when you watch Mayweather, that's what he is. That's what he is, yeah.
He will be considered one of the best ever.
Oh, yeah.
And when I look at it, I think about his uncle Roger, who was a world-level fighter himself. So he's obviously, you're saying your dad was a footy player and then went into the carpet industry. He's obviously had elite level, he's been a mega talented fighter, but then had elite level coaching in the form of his uncle. So obviously what your lad and your nephews get, you obviously have to have that talent and that work ethic to be in there. Yeah. But it gives you a hell of an head start if you've got somebody at that level on you, technically from an early age. Yeah. Then you had a couple of fights in between, but then you fight somebody who's considered a legend, Manny Pacquiao. Obviously came up and up and up through the divisions, and I don't want to badmouth Manny Pacquiao because I like him. There's lots of videos about how he managed to carry that power through those divisions, out in the Philippines. What was that fight like? What was it? Another super fight?
Well, I was I beat Malignaggi, but in the Malignaggi fight, I started feeling, it was a good performance to be honest, but I started feeling, that, didn't quite have the same zip, was landing at the end of I wasn't quite landing my punches as clean as I was. And I thought to myself, that time when I said, Kerry Kay said to me, listen, you'll be able to balloon up and down in weight and live your life the way you're living your life, your lifestyle, but sooner or later your body's going to say no. I think I'd reached that point where my body was sort of like saying, listen, you've killed me for these, God knows how many years, up and down in weight. I think you're coming to the end now. And that's what I felt round about the Malignaggi and the Pacquiao fight. And the training camp didn't go great, to be honest with you. I think I overtrained it. I was with Floyd Mayweather Sr., overtrained a little bit, I think. Floyd couldn't do southpaw pads, and they seemed like loads of things going wrong. And along with the things going wrong in the training camp, and along with me thinking to myself, I've seen better days here, and I'm fighting this fucker who's destroying everyone. Number one pound for the pound. He's knocking out De La Hoya. He's knocking out Margarita. He's knocking out Cotto. He's, So going to the ring, it was like, I thought, it's like going to my own funeral, I thought, because I knew I'd seen better days. Training camp didn't go great. So I thought, in typical Ricky Hatton style, I thought, well, I'm not going to go in and jab and move. I'm going to give you everything I've got. I'm going to try and throw myself at him, give everything I've got. And that's what, I did. And, doing what I got knocked out in the second round. It's a horrific knockout. It must have been awful for family and friends to see me get destroyed in the manner which I did. But Manny was doing that to most people, to be honest with you. And Yeah, to be honest with you, it was very hard to come down. That ultimately meant I had to retire then. So not only was the manner of the defeat tough for me to ask, the fact that I knew that boxing's gone, that's it, we're done now, Rick. You know,
sometimes you
hard.
see boxers carry on. You know, you're fighting the best of the best there. I'm looking at that going, fucking hell, it would have been interesting to watch you going in with your normal camp, Billy and all that round you. You know, the camp that you had going into Mayweather, going into the Paquiao fight.
Yeah, I think if I'd have had the old camp with me, it would have been better. I think, like you say, there was a few miles on the clock because of my lifestyle and ballooning up and down in weight. And, you know, obviously, my style of fighting, that was like my 47th fight. My style of fighting wasn't made. Like Floyd could fight like that till he's 60. I couldn't fight like that. To have 48 fights, as many fights as I did, doing what I did lifestyle-wise, weight-wise, and fighting the way I did, it was quite incredible what I actually did, to be honest.
Absolutely. I mean, it's, you know, as I say, to go out at the top, you know, you've gone out against the best. It's not like you've been on a card then as a journeyman and fucking, you know, people are going, fucking hell, I need to hang the gloves up here.
Well, when you think, you know, at that stage when Manny beat me, you know, you think the only two that beat me was arguably the two greatest of all time.
Well, certainly that era.
It's not bad.
Yeah, no, certainly that era. There's no disgrace at all in that. And actually, you know, you're looking at it going, I always thought, you know, looking at it, definitely the Pacquiao fight, I thought, if you'd have gone in with what I'd seen in the Mayweather build-up, I think that would have been a different fight.
I was better prepared for the Mayweather fight, most definitely. But for the Mayweather fight and the Pacquiao fight, I was much better prepared for the Tszyu fight, frame of mind and body and everything. And sometimes I always think, I'm not saying I would have done and probably wouldn't have done, but I mean, I think the Ricky Hatton that beat Tszyu, how would he have shared with the Mayweather and Pacquiao? It's worth a thought. Certainly I've been scratching my head over the years.
The ability to have those conversations, though, they're like, you know, it's the pantheon of boxers from your generation, and you're in that pantheon. Well, like you say,
they destroyed me, Joey, to be honest with you. It's very hard to, when you're used to winning and then getting beat and then having to retire and all the things going wrong. But when I look back and I talk about them fights like I'm talking with you now, it's, you know, I don't look back at them like I used to look back at them. I look back at them with pride now.
Yeah, but also, you could have not took them, Rick. You could have not took them fights as people do in boxing and kept your record and then go, oh, they fucking beat him, but you never fought. Like some boxers out there are going, the punch his head in. But you're going, well, you never got in the ring and fought.
Fought the best in the prime, didn't you?
All right, so after the Pacquiao fight, you know, your life takes a different turn because you got to hang the gloves up and you're walking away from boxing. What was the hardest part of walking away?
I don't. It's very hard to say because it's something that I'd done every day in my working life. You know, since leaving the school when I was 16 years of age. You know, my dad allowed me to fit a few carpets and that. And my dad allowed me to go to the gym every day, training with Billy Graham and training with Brian Hughes and stuff like that. But everything I'd done for me, going to the gym Monday to Friday, every day, train, work.
Institutionalised routine.
Yeah, and then banter as well, as I'm doing it, having the crack and everything like that. And I'm just sat me, how am I going to recreate that Monday to Friday in the gym every day? Working hard, training hard, preparing hard, having the banter with me gym mates and everything like that. You know, not you know, lifting a world title belt. I'm not hearing there's only one Ricky Hatton ever again. You know, what am I going to do now? And it's like, it's an horrific feeling. A lot of people say, well, what are you going worried about your mental health for? You know, because you've got a nice house, you've got a nice car, you've got a nice gym, you've got this, you've got that, you've got the other. You know, I mean, well, hang on a minute. Well, yeah, when you've had that and it's gone, it's you know, it's hard, you know. But no, when take less of a man, want it to retire and go, I'm not bothered about getting knocked out by Mayweather because I've got this and this. You don't think that. I've got knocked out by Pacquiao and I've got to retire now, so I'm never going to box again. But who cares? I've got this and this. You don't. Your head falls off.
But then listening to you, clearly, you know, you weren't. You know, everyone likes to get paid well and do well because you can provide nice things and have nice things. But you don't strike me as a person who's motivated by money. It looks like you were motivated by legacy and becoming a world champion.
Yeah. And to be honest with you, the money was always going to come with that, you know. So and it did do, you know. So but people have always liked me because of that, you know. I mean, this gym's like 10 minutes from where I was born in Attersley. Do you know what I mean? It's 10 minutes from where my house is, you know, down the road. You know, it's 5 minutes from where I went to school. it's 500 yards from where I started as my amateur boxing club and that, you know what I mean? So I have got the nice things, but I still live a pretty, you know,
normal life.
Pretty normal life. I go to my local, you know, play darts with a team, I go and watch City, and I have got nice things and that, but I think, you know, I've boxing changed my life, but I don't think Ricky Hatton changed too much.
Not many people who go through what you've gone through and maintain that, obviously, you know, that normality, as you would have to call it. So in 2012, after 3 years out, you decided to make a comeback. What made you do that, Rick?
I knew I was finished, you know, after the Paquiao fight and Malignaggi fight, which I said. But then when my life started falling together, wasn't there? There was the stories in the paper, and there was, you know, I was suicidal, and I was drinking too much. And I was in the paper taking drugs, and you know, and I thought to me, you know, I was billed as, you know, Ricky Hatton, the Jack the lad, the kid next door, and then all of a sudden they see me here, there, and everything falling to bits. If you
That's
like.
Our papers. They build you up to knock you down.
No, I know that, but I mean, at the time, I'm thinking to myself, you know, the only thing I can ask for is a little bit of sympathy. That is that mentally, I was a very, very poorly person. I didn't care what I was doing, who I was with, what I was doing. I didn't care. You know, I couldn't kill myself, so I thought I'll drink and drug myself to death. That was my opinion, which then translated in me being pictured here, there, everywhere, drunk, off my head, this, that, and all the rest of it. And it was a bad time for me, and I was a very, very poorly person. And I felt that I'd let so many people down, family, local community, Manchester, Britain, and my fans. So, you know, when I got myself on a straight and narrow, got myself nice and fit and healthy, good frame of mind again, doing, you know, good things, I thought, I said, I want to make a comeback here. I said, you know, I know, because I feel like I've let people down. And they would say, you haven't let people down. Jesus Christ, Rick, we all have problems, and you're no different to anyone else. You've had problems. Don't worry about it. I said, I don't care. If that's what's between my ears, that's what I need to get fucking rid of. I need to get it out of the way.
So did that comeback give you closure?
Give me closure, yeah. And in typical Ricky Hatton fashion, I didn't pick anyone I could just flatten. I picked a former world champion, 34 wins, 1 defeat.
Make it a bit harder for yourself.
Yeah, so, but I think it was just about winning the fight. There was not much in it. And then he got me, second to last round, he got me with a body shot and knocked me out. But I mean, I didn't really take a great deal of punishment. You know, it's not as if I got flattened with one punch like I did against Paquiao and that. I got hit with a body shot, went down. And then the team behind me turned around and said, you know, listen, don't make any hasty decisions at this press conference after the fight, Ricky. And I said, no. I said, I've already made my decision. I said, I'm happy with it. You know, I picked a former world champion. I've gone through, you know, me drink and drugs and suicide and depression and all these, me mental health and all these bad things to come out, pick a former world champion after 4 years of torture and go to the Manchester Arena and fight a former world champion again and just get pipped by the skin of my teeth. I went, can't let me retire while I'm fucking happy, please. And I went to the press conference and I turned around and I said, listen, I've had a great career. I felt I let a lot of people down a few years ago with how I was. I was a very, very poorly person, but I've given it back to give another go. And I hope, you know, I hope you're proud of me, and I'm happy to announce my retire now from boxing. And, you know, I think people looked at me like the same breath, like, well, we've all had problems. Ricky's been through them just like we've been through them. But after he's been through, to come back and get himself healthy, get himself on the straight and narrow and do what he's done tonight against the former world champion and do that, I think I felt like I'd lost my respect, but I ended up getting even more respect. I think people loved me even more after coming back from what I had done.
Yeah.
I think people, you know, look at me even more now, you know, because of, you know, they knew I got beat by Paquiao and this, that, and all the rest of it. He's had his problems. He felt let down. You know, he's come back, fucked a former world champion. Oh, fair play to him. What a guy. You know, that's the feedback I got from it. And if I was able then to retire on your
own terms,
you know, good on my own terms, retire comfortable, retire happy, and I've not looked back since.
Well, 2022. 10 years after that, you end up lacing the gloves back on for an exhibition fight with a legend in Pereira. Why that fight, and why did you wait 10 years to do it?
Well, I'd been in a good way for a good long time now, and it was just after we'd come out of lockdown, You know, we'd all been locked in our houses, couldn't see anyone, couldn't do anything, couldn't, you know, been a depressive time, you know.
Yeah.
People, and at the time, because of the lockdown, people's mental health were going through the roof. You know, suicide levels were up in young men and everything like that. And I got a phone call and they went, "Hey, Ricky, you know, it's been really good to see you, you know, get on the straight and narrow after so many bad years of, you know, this, that and all the rest of it. How would you like to do an exhibition at the Manchester Evening News Arena against Marco Antonio Barrera? I know he's your friend and I know he's a legend and that. So I know, you know, you do the right thing, put a good show on for people. We know liberties being taken because you're friends and that. I just think it's a good time, Ricky, because I think it's good for you. I think it's good, you know, you're an ambassador for mental health and people who have you know, have been overweight and struggled with mental health and depression and been suicidal and stuff like that, you know what I mean? For you to come back, and it's after lockdown where we've all been locked in our houses, you know, and, you know, and stuff like that. I think, you know, you coming out and doing an exhibition one last time, you know, at the Manchester Arena, Ricky Hatton versus Marco Antonio Barrera, I think, you know, not only would it inspire me getting in shape again and fighting someone like Marco Antonio Barrera, he said the impact it will have on so many people after coming out of lockdown where so much shit has happened to us all. I think it's the perfect time, you know. And I said, you know what, I couldn't agree more. Do you know what I mean? And I think, you know, and I had so many letters, you know, after it, you know, just saying, you know, I've struggled with my weight all my years, and to see how big you were years ago, and to see you now walking around so healthy, and, you know, and to see them stories and pictures in the paper where you were suicidal, and to see you now doing a fight at 44 years of age. Oh my God, you know, when you think about it, you know, after lockdown and that, it seemed the right time to do it, and I was able to share the ring with a legend.
You enjoy it?
Oh, loved it. It was the best. And, you know, I never thought I'd hear that there's only one Ricky Hatton again. Yeah. And I was happy. You know, after the Senchenko fight, my comeback fight, which I was happy, I could retire happy. Yeah. Still in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, oh, I'm never going to hear that song again, Emma, but, you know, never mind, fuck it. I was able to hear it one last time, the roar of the crowd, and there's only one Ricky Hatton again. So, and to share the ring with Marco Antonio Barrera, it's great, and that's where the position I'm at in my life, doing positive things, you know, that can help others, and help in doing so helps me.
And you transitioned into the coaching now, which I want to talk to you about. You're obviously able to show the fighters who you're training who you're around, you know, that what the old dog used to do when he was, you know, in his pomp. How do you find the difference between the boxing and being in the ring and being the fighter and being the coach and being the trainer?
A lot less painful. But no, for the same reason, I train youngsters that are coming up, you know, and I've got a kid who's an area champion, which was the first title I won against Tommy Peacock from Liverpool, and and it's like when they turn around and they say, oh, why, you know, when I train fight, and I've been doing it for a few years now, but when they come up to me and go, oh, I've just paid my house off, Rick, just paid my mortgage off, or oh, Rick, I've just bought myself a new car. How do you think about that? You know, I remember how I used to felt when I paid my first mortgage off, or when I bought my first car, or when I did my first this. So I'm sort of like, I'm able to live my dreams again a little bit through their
back, aren't you?
Yeah, through their eyes, you know, and everything. Because getting the feeling of how I felt when I did this or did that or paid for this or was able to get this or able to get that. So it's and it's great. It can be a little bit frustrating because obviously these lads have trained in the past. They say, you're not pulling your fucking weight, do you know what I mean? Because I mean, you judge I'm not on about ability. I'm on about work ethic. Sometimes
discipline,
you judge your standard on theirs, and some people just don't have it. So you feel like giving them a clip.
It's not that. Your standards are world champion standards, and not everyone's capable of that.
Yeah, so, you know, so it is frustrating, but I get a lot of joy from it. You know, as you can imagine, when people are coming saying, like they have done over the years, I've paid my house off now, Rick, and I've got this now, and I've got a nice few kids tucked away for the Lickland, and, you know, that's what it's all about.
So I was going to say to you, what's the most satisfying part for you working with young fighters?
I think the most satisfying is seeing them achieve their dreams. You know, I've trained I've trained a world champion, I've trained a couple of European champions, trained an English champion, a couple of area champions. You know, so and when you see them, you know, reach their Everest, you know, like I did, you know, and it's brilliant. And then when little things like when they pay things off, like the mortgage or the new cars and stuff like that. But for me, it's also not only for them being able to live their dreams and me have a little bit of a help in doing that for them. It's when I come in the gym and I watch the tapes of their opponents. I put the tapes in and I watch them, study them. Then we'll come in the gym, we'll get on the pads. I said, he does this. So when he does this, I want you to slide over, put this shot under there, and then roll under and go on the other side and get behind him and do this and do that. Like I used to do with my opponents. Put the tapes in, study my opponents. Sat there with Billy, listen to have our game plan worked out, and I'm doing Billy's job now. Sat there with my fighters. Do you see him do that? See what he did then?
You haven't got any fucking snakes out the back, have you?
Yeah, I know, yeah. See what he did then? When he does that, you do fucking this, and you do that, and it's like, again, it's like reliving. I'm going back through, memory, going back in, down memory lane, of what it used to be like. So
brings back them great memories.
It'll never be the same as holding your world title belts up and that. But I'm still involved in the game. I'm still in the game that I love. I'm helping. From a coaching point of view, I'm trying to bring the next through. I'm trying to help kids fulfil their dreams. If I can bring the next one through out for this country that makes the country as proud as I'd like to think I did, then that would be something else. And when I do my talks, if I can save if I can save one person's life after doing one talk, then that's what it's all about for me.
So you work with your son Campbell. How emotional has that been for you? Is it harder watching someone you love take punches than it is actually getting punched yourself?
Oh, very much so. I mean, 'cause I know when you're in the ring, at the end of the day, it's it's up to me. I can do something about it when I'm in there. Do you know what I mean? I can get out of the way. I can block it. I can get him with a body shot. I can finish the fight earlier. But when you're looking on the outside, you're thinking, "Go on, Campbell, do this. No, go on, Campbell." You know what I mean? It's frustrating, and the fact that you see your loved ones taking punches and getting hurt and copying for a shot here and there. Because I know how hard this game is, boxing. To see your loved ones, it's even like me niece and nephew Jack and Lola when they're in there. It's horrible, and I know what my mum and dad went through now when I was fighting, and probably even worse there for me because I know I've been there and I've lived it, and I know how painful the game is, but. All three of them are making me very, 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 very proud. They work hard, and hopefully they're going to come out with something at the end of it.
The fighting Hattons.
The fighting Hattons, yeah.
So a look at your legacy, Rick, and it's cemented, obviously. Tony Bellew and other good boxers from this country, great boxers from this country, speaking the way they do about you, saying, they captivated the country, not just, your local fans, but everybody was behind Ricky Hatton. Even outside of the UK, you were a global sensation. When people talk about the Hitman, what do you hope they remember?
I hope they remember the good times. That we had good times, flew the flag. Wonderful fights, wonderful entertainment, did the country proud, and as successful as I was, I always remained down to earth, humble. That's why I spend my time now giving a little bit back, not sat back saying how good I am like Floyd does. Look how good I am. I'm the money man. I'm the best of all time. No, that's not Ricky Hatton. I hope I brought a lot of entertainment and happiness to people's lives through the boxing. And after everything, just stay true to myself and remained humble. And it's probably one of the most asked questions that. So I only in a one line I could probably only say the world champion. That was one of us. Do you know what I mean?
Man of the people, world champion. Yeah. Do you think you get the recognition you deserve in boxing circles, in boxing history?
Yeah, I think I do. I think I've done a lot. It sounds like I'm blowing my own. I'm not blowing my own trumpet. I've always tried to do a bit for charity. I got an MBE dinner off Prince Charles, King Charles now. For my services for boxing, and I think that's because I flew the flag, in the United States and all over the world, and flew the flag for the country, and I like to think I did them proud. When I was back home, I was always, doing my charity work, raising money, so I think that's why I got my MBE. So I was to be recognised, not just necessarily in boxing terms by your peers, to be recognised by the royal family. That's, something very, very special to me and my family. And I don't think you can get better. You can win world titles and boxing Las Vegas, see my name up in lights. But when I got inducted last year by the Boxing Hall of Fame, Boxing Hall of Fame in Canastota in New York, for my name to go down, you can be a world champion, but you don't always sometimes get inducted into the Hall of Fame. I mean, I got inducted into the Hall of Fame, and I think to myself, when I laced them gloves on Hattersley Estate 5 minutes down the road, you know what I mean? I never thought I'd be a world champion. Never thought I'd do it at 2 weights. I never thought I'd fight in Vegas. I never thought I'd get an MBE and then be a Hall of Famer in this sport. It's a dream that I will never, ever wake up to. And if there's anything, all I can say to anyone out there or to any youngsters watching, I come from the council estate. And if you're from the council estate, don't think you can't do it either.
I was just going to say, if you could go back and speak to, I've got 18-year-old Ricky Hatton here, but probably 17-year-old Ricky Hatton, what advice would you give to him?
I just think everything you do, give it your best. Give it everything your best. I mean, like I said earlier, all you need to be able to do is just look in the mirror and say, have I done my best? You know what I mean? Be true to yourself, be honest, be humble. And, try not to take too many things to heart. Because I think because I dwelled on a lot of stuff, it made my head fall off, didn't it, a few times.
But you were saying it drove you sometimes as well, so it's tough,
yeah,
isn't it?
Yeah, so fuel? I mean, we're all built the way he is. I mean, people say, that what happened, the bad things that happened for me in life made me the type of person I am today. Because I mean, whether it's from a boxing point of view, in this 4 walls of this gym, there's no point being a great boxing trainer if my fighter leaves this gym and his head's in bits, whether it be family or finances or financial or this or that, whatever problems, whether it be right or wrong, because I've been through it, I think I'm in a good position to give advice on how to do the good things in life, whether it be boxing, or how to do your bad things in life, on how to get through it. Been there, done it, got the T-shirt, and so that's what I'm trying to do through the boxing and through my mental health. Just trying to give a little bit back.
Okay, going to rattle through a couple of quick fire questions here. Who's the toughest opponent you ever faced, apart from yourself?
I'd probably say Louis Collazo. I think Floyd Mayweather was the best opponent. He was the best, but when I moved up to welterweight, that extra £7, that was the most toughest physical fight I'd ever had anyway. Peeing blood for a fortnight, shaking after the fight, real bad way.
The best punch you ever landed?
The best punch I ever landed, I think, was the body shot to Jose Luis Castillo. Bearing in mind he was a Mexican and a body puncher in his own right. To get a body puncher with a body punch like that, I think that was the best one, yeah.
Your favourite boxer? I know you've mentioned a few before, but if you had to pick one, who would be your favourite boxer?
I'd say Roberto Duran. Yeah, he was a man of his people, which I like to think I am. His people in Panama. He was ferocious, give 100%. Up in weight, down in weight, fought the best, didn't give a shit, you know what I mean? And still remained humble to his people, and he still is to this day. Yeah.
Did his body type influence you as well?
Very much so. I modelled myself on him in more ways than one. He always ballooned up in weight, he always had a beer, he fought everyone else. So, in many ways.
Hands of stone.
Yeah.
Manas de Piedra or something like that, wasn't it? Yeah. Your favourite ring walk track?
My favourite ring walk track was obviously Blue Moon, to be honest with you. It's... And the one that I have now is just from a Manchester bad Supra. It wasn't, it was like, it was like a rock and roll one. I said Blue Moon.
Oh, yeah.
And it was one of them. You think you used to come out to that?
Yeah, they played it at the stadium, yeah.
Yeah, so that one, because, I mean, it wasn't, Blue Moon's more of a romantic one. Blue
a bit of a ballad,
yeah. But that one, they brought that one out, just a local band from Manchester. Yeah. It got me psyched up when I was walking to the ring. I said Blue Moon. I'd be like, yeah.
Have you got one laugh out loud moment from your career?
One laugh out loud moment. I think when Tszyu kept hitting me low, didn't he? He kept hitting me with a low blow. Referee, don't do that again. He hit me again in the knackers. Don't do that again. He hit me with a third time in the knackers. Don't do that. And it's in the end I thought, that's 3 times there. He's not took a point. So I'm thinking to myself, if I hit him once, in the knackers, he's not going to take a point off me because everyone knows he's warned him 3 times. So I took a run up, and there's the picture there on the wall just behind you, Joey. See it there?
Oh, yeah. Oh, he's squealing there.
I took a run up, I went bang, and I hit him, and he went down in the knackers, and the referee must have thought that was blatant, but I can't take a point off here because I warned him 3 times. So that was a little bit of clever thinking, but I was sat there in the corners thinking, no, he won't be having any more kids.
He did.
Yeah, he did he? Hey, and he was a belter.
Good boxer,
Jesus
yeah.
Christ,
He's a good
yeah.
prospect. Up until a couple of fights ago,
yeah.
weren't he? One regret? Do you have one regret?
Not a single one, to be honest with you, because I think the things I did right well, everyone was proud of, and the things that I did wrong, where, you know, I think it's made me the person that I am today, and I'm trying to use them wrongs to try and help people. So no regrets, yeah.
I'd just have to ask you your thoughts on this, Rick, on the kind of misfits boxing scene, and obviously, you know, the Jake Paul boxing scene as a true traditionalist. What's your thoughts on what's going on in boxing?
I think I've come around to the way of thinking. It's the way of the world is now. Social media, do you know what I mean? It is what it is. And I think to myself, if someone hasn't got an opportunity in boxing because they're not quite up to it, and they want to go in the misfits because then they've got a better chance for it. I can't really blame them, you know, to be honest. If they want to go down the misfits route, and if someone's offering you like a basketball player, you know, loads of money to box a rapper, or a mixed martial arts, load of money to fight a boxer, if it's footballer, there, you're gonna have to go. You're gonna have to go for it. To be honest with you, you know, you can't blame. You know, at the end of the day, don't matter what level they're at, they're still getting in a boxing ring, 1-on-1 and scrapping someone. You know, so you've got to give a little bit of credit. It's just the way social media and the world has gone today. But I think to myself, boxing, we can have our game. When I mean boxing, as in proper boxing. Yeah. And you know, and if someone's not up to that standard and they need to be in the misfits and everything like that, we'll have our boxing and you do your boxing. I think the two can both exist as long as everyone knows which is which.
Yeah, well, that's the problem, innit? Well, certainly we're talking to my young lads now, the rise of kind of Jake Paul. You know, I don't know, but my kids are like, oh, he's a good boxer. And I'm like, he's a fucking lemon. Like, with the greatest respect, like, these are proper boxers.
Yeah, he's a clever lemon, but, you know, from a boxing point of view, you know what I mean? He wouldn't last in our game.
He's calling out Canelo and stuff like that.
Yeah,
I mean,
no, it's madness, yeah.
Would you, like, this dead serious here, would you fancy your chances with a bit of training in the ring with someone like him now?
Well, he's like heavyweight, isn't he? So he's a lot bigger when you think I box at like welterweight. But the thing is he's like, you know, Mike Tyson boxed Jake Paul, didn't he? And he got offered, you know, he's 58 years of age, Mike Tyson, and he got offered 20 million to fight Jake Paul. You know, who's going to say no to 20 million to fight Jake Paul?
I know, but it didn't look like he was fighting him. It looked like it was
No, it was an exhibition, I think it was. I think, you know, Mike Tyson, you know, flew everything into the first round, and then when he started getting a bit, as you'd expect, 58 years of age, a bit out of steam.
And he's got his own weed. Yeah, so he's probably been getting stoned for the last 10 years.
I think in the end, Mike was pulling his punches, and then as Mike got tired, Jake started down the home stretch pulling his punches. I wish they'd have told us it was an exhibition rather than a fight, because they've charged everyone for flights, hotel accommodation, you know, VIP tickets. They've charged them the earth and sold it as a fight, but it wasn't. It was an exhibition fight, wasn't it? So, but I think, I don't blame him for taking the opportunities. Really, Ricky, do you want to fight Jake Paul for 30 million? Of course I'm fighting, but it should be taken out of my hands. Yeah. There should be somewhere that goes, hey, you're 58, Mike. You're not fighting Jake. Doesn't matter how much money you're given, but there's no one in place, so it's going to continue. And I tell you what, it's going to take some big major disaster to happen where somebody's going to get really hurt before someone finally steps in. It's not about money no more. It's about the boxer's health. Because isn't that what boxing's all about? It's all about making money and winning titles, but the boxer's health is paramount.
Doesn't seem that way anymore. Rick, I've got 2 more questions for you. Being a Madman City fan, obviously City are not doing as well as they have done. You've seen City lift the European Cup in your life, which we all would have thought was impossible before Sheikh Mansour. What's your current thoughts on City at this moment in time?
I don't know what the answer is. I think everybody goes through a bad patch, and I don't think, let's have it right, to win 4 years on the bounce and win the treble and win the league with the most goals scored, win the league with the most points, and breaking records left, right and centre. It's very hard to maintain that. How can you maintain that level of, and to watch the quality of the football on the pitch, where it was 4-0, 5-0, 6-0, 5-1s, 4-1s. You can't maintain that now. I'm a little bit surprised that the blip that they've had has lasted for so long. I just thought, you go through a bit of a bad patch, don't you? But you get yourself back on track. But we seem not to be getting not to be getting back on track. We just seem to be plateauing. So I don't know whether it's, let them have a season off, get some new signings in and start again from next year. That's the only way I can I can put it. You do have a blip, but you'd think a team like Blip with Pep and everything like that, it'd be like a couple of weeks sort of, but it's dragging, isn't it?
He's got a big rebuild on it.
Yeah, he's got a big rebuild, but I don't know what the answer is personally. Well, that's
there'll be a few superstars in the summer, I would imagine.
I would have thought so. Yeah,
losing a few with De Bruyne and that going out.
Yeah, Gundogan, all coming of age that little bit now, but yeah, he's. I think he'll get it right. He's the man, but I think let him have a good break pre-season and come back next season. If we can get in the top 4, win the FA Cup, I think that would be a fantastic season for how we're performing.
Yeah. I mean that the bar's changed for City from the the League One days to where they are now, where it's one of Europe's premier
so we
clubs.
can't moan, and like you say, how can you maintain what we were doing?
Tough.
No one can.
All right, the last one from me. Obviously with the Man City theme in place, Ricky Hatton, massive Man City fan, Bernard Manning, massive Man City fan, but the two biggest Man City fans are back together in the summer, Noel and Liam. Carried your belts in the ring in America, obviously close relationship with them. What's the best night out, best concert you've had with them? You must have had a few nights out with the brothers.
Well, I remember going... I remember when Aguero scored the goal, the pictures there.
I can't remember that. I don't fucking know what happened there.
I know, yeah, sorry, mate.
I should have got a fucking medal.
Well, I was in a box behind the net, and Liam was in a box on the far side. And anyway, the game finished, you know what I mean? Aguero scored the goal, anything like that. So Liam comes round in the box, we give him a no go. Oh, I can't believe it. And he went, "You go at the town hall tonight?" Because there was a do at the town hall where all the players went with the wives and the staff and everything like that. I said, yeah. I said, I've got a +1, but I said I fell out with the missus, so I'm on my own. He went, I've got a +1 and I fell out with mine. And he said, so me and you go. So we went, yeah. So I'm going to so we come out the ground and we're coming out the main entrance, and me and Liam there have a picture of all the photographers. And he heard just one of the photographers whispered to his mate, "I fucking hell, bet these two are going to have a fucking good night." And then just going on taking a picture. So we went to the town hall there, and just with all the players there, Vinny Company's there, and everyone's having a few drinks. Balotelli's there, he's larger than life character, isn't he? And Liam starts ripping into Balotelli and going, "Oh, you're shit, though, you shit, man. You know what I mean? That's what, And I'm just thinking, oh my God, what's going on here? But then also... Another one that comes to mind was when they carried the belts in for the Malignaggi fight. They flew then from Vegas to Mexico City to gig. So we went over with them, me and my mates. They're gigging on the stage there, and we've got loads of ice buckets there where they've got me loads of Guinness, loads of lagers, bottle of vodka. We're on the stage, and they're in the middle, and we're actually on the stage listening to it. Best seats you could ever happen like that. Then Liam gets on the mic and goes, "All right, Mexico, how you doing? Hey, do you know my mate Ricky Hatton, the world light welterweight champion?" I stood up and they went, "Hey," he went, "Thought so, he's not fuck out of you little fuckers." 40,000 Mexicans. I went, right, let's get on.
So I take it you'll be going to the reunion gigs in the summer?
Yeah. I've not, I've got tickets for the Cardiff one, which will be good. Taking Campbell, it's the first time they're on stage together live for the first time in years, so that'll be nice. I'm also going to one in Dublin. I haven't got me ones for Manchester yet, Eaton Park, but
you'll be all right.
But I'm hopefully I'll be all right.
Hopefully they hear this. I've been on Noel anyway. I've been harassing Noel saying you fucking. I was saying for the years.
I've not phoned Noel or Liam or asked anyone for tickets yet, because it must have been horrific for them. And I think the last thing they want is the phone started ringing for people asking me, "Oh, can you get tickets for Noel and Liam?" I went, "No, I'm sure they think Noel and Liam sleep at the bottom of my fucking bed."
I
Liam,
used to
you haven't
go,
got 6, have you? Come on, there you go.
I used to get pissed. No, they were separated. I'd be playing snooker and that pissed, and he'd have the tunes on, Oasis on, and I'd go, "I'm fucking phoning him." And I'd fucking try and, when you're bevy, you think it's a great idea. I'm like, "I'll phone him anyway." I'd get blanked. He'd text me the next morning, "You on the air last night?" I'm like, "Oh, sorry, fucking hell." But I'd text him, "Fucking get the band back together, go and see your kids." So for years I
made up for them to see them back again together, and then And just had the thought of maybe they could make some new songs together. How good would that be? You never know, do you? But and just for the mum.
Yeah, brilliant.
For the mum,
yeah,
seeing
Peggy,
the boys back together, because I know they both think so much of the mum, and the mum likewise of them. So that would be that must have been nice for old Mother Hubbard, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Well, you got to see it, but it'd be great to see. I can't wait for it. Hopefully, you see you at one.
Yeah.
Well, listen, Rick, thanks so much. That's been
Pleasure,
Common
Joey.
Sense
Pleasure,
with the
mate.
one and only, the legend, Ricky The Hitman Hatton.